Chad, today's supposed to be kind of a chill day, aka I don't want to play much. So, when in doubt, when we don't want to play much, we go to content that we have stored. And the content we have today is this podcast that SVB did with Jared, who's the executive producer of Overwatch. Low key, I already kind of know a lot of stuff that's said in here, but it's better to hear it in first person hearing it there with what is said instead of reading someone's interpretation through a tweet or some chatter who came to tell me something. Apparently it was really good, except there's a part about Quickplay being super sweaty, and it's like, yeah, we like that. Okay, chat, it's time. This is an hour and 11 minutes long, so grab your snackies, grab some popcorn, grab a water, grab whatever you need to grab as we settle on in for some podcasting. Let's get it.
As we draw to the end of the year, I am with a member of
the
Overwatch development team, and we're going to have a whole little debrief on the year that's gone by and what's to come as well. So
let's hear Jared
talk
first.
Introduce my guest, Jared. In fact, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell everyone who you are and what you do on the Overwatch team.
Maxed out, chat.
Sure thing. Hi.
All right, if it's still quiet at this point, hang on. All right.
We're going to talk about loads of things, a real wide-ranging topics. We're going to talk about monetization, PVE, reflecting on the year, the Steam launch, collaborations, and of course what to expect in the year coming up as well. But I thought we'd start with some current affairs, as it were, in Overwatch. Before we get to kind of reflective on the year, I thought we'd just talk about what's happening right now. So my first question to you, Jared, comes about the Mythic skins. Now, there's been a bit of controversy in the Overwatch community about a perceived drop in quality of the Mythic skins. People feel like, especially compared to the early seasons, like the Genji, Kiriko Mythic skins, the last couple
starting off with the Mythic skins,
they kind of lack customizability, and they don't quite have the same oomph as the original one. So how do you guys kind of feel about the Mythic skins and what's going on back there?
I don't know if I agree about the oomph factor, but I think the feedback has been really helpful. I mean, something that's interesting to note is
we're gonna make it to the podcast. It's fine.
I don't think that there was it's not that I don't think there wasn't like a template for what they would always be. It wasn't like every Mythic will have this number of customization options, this number of colors, this blah 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 blah. Like when I joined the team shortly after the game launched, every Mythic was kind of its own thing, and there's a lot that I like about that idea. But like, I think what's really clear is that when things change, people will always compare to the thing that came before it, and there's been frustration around it. So, when people say, well, Mythic Orisa has like one thing that you can change and then a bunch of different colors, I'm like, well, yeah, but also like, the ult has like brand new custom VFX. There's a ton of new audio. There's a bunch of voice lines and a bunch of voice modulation. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm not trying to.
Couldn't you argue that though for things like the Genji ultimate? The Genji ult sounded different. The Kiri ult sounded different, right? I don't know if Junker Queen did. Yo, assassin! Yo, thanks for 5 gifties again. Hey, yo.
Say that people who are upset are wrong or anything like that. That's not it at all. It's just that one of the things that we're learning is what people are and are not excited about when it comes to Mythics. And so
Genji has 3 unique voice lines for the skin. Hanzo and Orisa have over 100 plus, I think. Tracer and Ana have 30. Junker Queen has 20. You know what's funny? I never knew that. I didn't know there was that many unique voice lines for each one of them, because I don't think that's what people think about as much with a skin. They think what they see and what they hear right away. So like the customizations slash what noises the skin makes. So like voice lines is an interesting one. I haven't heard that one yet.
I was seeing the response to Mythic Hanzo, I think, was really interesting because people saw the number of customization options there, and I think there was some frustration before they used the skin. And then after they used the skin, I think they saw kind of what we were going for, and I think the positive response to that since then has been generally pretty high. That skin is sick, in my opinion. Orisa, I think people have had kind of more mixed feelings about, and so
I also think part of it is people just hate Orisa. Like Orisa just blows, like. Orisa blows. Like
for us, it's about just hearing what people think. If like literally the number of customization options is the thing that people are frustrated by, how can we do a little bit better there in the future? And we're already making adjustments to future Mythic skins based on the feedback that we saw kind of before Hanzo released, and then now that we're seeing kind of the response to Orisa, there are changes in the works. So, I don't know if we'll ever go all in forever on the level of customization that Genji had. Like that was a really
Right.
really complicated skin out of the gate. But I know that we can provide players with more
Yeah.
customization than we are now.
That was going to be my kind of question. This follow up is that did you kind of set the bar too high almost? Like, should we expect something more on the level of what we've gotten recently? Because I guess to try and be fair to you guys, like, you might have spent a lot of time on that one Genji Mythic because it was going to be the first Mythic, and maybe now we've been a bit like we expect that level of things, whereas really the Hanzo Reese are kind of more in the ilk of, is that what you can logistically make in the time between seasons?
Oh yeah, I don't think it's necessarily that like we only have time for like the level of customization that you'd see in Orisa. I think it's more about these skins take a long time to make, and so
Yeah, I heard they take over a year.
Has been in development for a long time before we really had feedback about what players liked, and so I think there's a little bit of a naive idea that like players. With
I remember I talked to the people from Blizzard like way back before Overwatch even launched, and I was like, what just stops you from just pumping skins? Like what stops you from doing like, instead of you doing like 10 a season, you do like 40? What's stopping you? Like, honestly, pipeline. It takes like a year to get skins made, and then it's not just like the art and design, it's like the thought process behind it, the ideas behind it, what they want, can that work in game, then actually putting it in the game, coding into the game, graphic design, then having it play tested to make sure it doesn't, break anything, doesn't look bad, looks good, is easily identifiable in game. And you got to remember, like, there's only so many people at all of those steps. Either, like, for example, testing the game. Like, those people are probably already testing so many other things, to make things don't break. Or balance or whatever it is. It's like,
Get that these are all different and they're all customizable in some way, and they're all very cool and have a lot of custom like VFX and audio and stuff. And now what we're seeing is more
Oh, and speaking of VFX and audio, dude, I saw on Twitter a video of them. They showed off how they made the Christmas music on Parisu. Was it Parisu? No, Parisu? Was it Parisu? Might have been Parisu. And it was like, it's wild how they make some of that stuff.
Wanting like number of customization options, which I get. But do I think we came out of the gate a little bit hard? Yeah. There's a lot in a skin like that, and the thing about the Overwatch team that is I don't know if the community believes, but is 100% true, is that left to their own devices, everyone on the team will always try to one up the thing that they just did. They'll always try to go a little bit harder and do a little bit more. And so it's about like, hey, let's find that balance of it's always amazing, but also like you don't have 7,000 customization options 3 years from now. It's
right.
That's the kind of balance we're trying to find.
No power creep in the customization, then, basically, is what we're saying.
I try a lot because I want people to be able to like go home at a normal hour and have a life.
I mean, yeah, kudos to you for
going home at a normal hour.
Severely underrated, but that's not for this podcast to talk about.
In game development?
I mean, yeah. So that's
come
good
on
to know.
now.
You should know that
That's
Overwatch
not real.
players are going to be competitive as well. As the team are competitive, people are going to be like, well, my favorite character Hanzo didn't get 8 options, but Genji did. 100%. So I think you guys have created a bit of a problem for yourself there.
I think we underestimated that for sure.
I don't know how much they've even estimated. So, okay, really quick. I made a tweet about why people don't like this season of Overwatch. It has almost 1,000 replies. And I would say 90% of the replies are about the skins this season. They're about the skins. And like, it's insane that because the skins weren't top notch, other than like a few, many of the casual players are just like, nah, this is a bad season for content. And it's like, whoa, there really isn't content for the casual gamer outside of actually just skins. You know what I mean?
As a person who plays a lot more Orisa,
flavor things in the 2 months, I appreciate it.
I like the skin, but I totally get where people are coming from. It's like, oh well, I could swap out all these different things before, and now I can only change these things. Like, why is that? And so it's that feedback is like, it's super helpful, and just understanding where our players are at is like, we have to know so that we can do better in the future.
Hello guys, SVB here, and the Group Up podcast is back, and I'd like to take just 30 seconds of your time to talk to you about 2 quick things. Firstly, Patreon. If you enjoy the content, then please
true.
Because Patreon
base
is
plug.
10% of the money you give, where YouTube and Twitch take 40 and 50% respectively.
Everything's the 4 months.
So if you'd like to support the podcast, then that is the best way to do so. Secondly, if you're someone
True.
who enjoys video essays or detailed analysis of movies, TV, or anime, then please do check out my second channel, The Soak, where I'll be
Okay,
making videos about those kind of topics
W
much more
plugs. I
frequently.
thought if it was an
and where a
actual
lot of my
ad, I might have
attention will
skipped
go
it, but
beyond just Overwatch. It would mean the absolute world to me if you
W
guys would check it out.
self-plugs.
But that's it for now.
SVB does a lot
Let's
of
head
good
back
stuff.
to the discussion. Gotcha. Well, thank
Okay.
you for that one. Well, speaking on the continuing the theme of like monetization, and right now, you guys have obviously announced Winter Wonderland and this new Winter Fair event pass. Now, obviously, there's great elements of it, but I'm here to address complaints. You know, I'm going to ask you the negative parts. So a lot of people feel like a little bit hard done by when you look at how you can unlock things in the premium pass that you pay for, which is that you
I already
can't
given my
actually
takes
get
on this
all
part,
the
so I'm
skins
not
that you
going to say
want,
much.
even
I'm
if you
just going to
pay
wait.
for the,
I want to hear his
the
response.
premium pass and grind all the tickets. It's a max of 480, and each of the legendary skins cost 160, and then there's 3 that cost 90 each. So just doing the math, you can't get them all. And on top of that, there's other cosmetics you can't get as well. So what was behind the decision? Like, why can't we unlock everything if we've paid for the winter pass?
Yeah, this is one that, like, I'll be totally honest, like the responses kind of surprised me. It's understandable when you break it down like that. I'm like, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. But like, step back and just think about our goals with it for a second. Our goals were, when you play an event in Overwatch, usually it's like play a bunch of games, get a skin at the end. Cool, I'm moving on with my life. And what we wanted was for players to have more choice. And so it's like, well, how do we give you more choice? If it's, at the end you get to pick from one of 3 things or whatever. And so the goal here was like, what if
It shows they're listening.
was still, had
People talked in the past that they
wanted
wanted choice.
you could pick the thing you got at the end. That's cool. And then it's like, well, what if we could give you like a menu of options to pick from, and then you could pick from some number of things and decide what you want. So if it's like, oh, I want these 2 skins and these other things, great. Then I got the stuff that I wanted. I'm happier because I got more agency over what I was able to get than at a normal event. That was kind of like
he's got a point.
Started from. And so kind of implicit to that is this idea that like there's a menu of options. When you go to a restaurant, you don't say, give me everything on the menu. You'll be like, I want these 2 things or these 3 things because that's what I'm paying for.
So I've already given my opinion on it, so I'm not going to give my opinion on it on that part. But I want to say this is going to be part of the growing pains of not having what would be considered like a very old dev team for an old game. Not saying that they haven't been around a long time, they don't do great work, because they do. But Jared said in the very beginning that he joined the Overwatch team at the start of Overwatch 2. If you're an Overwatch 1 player or some old boomer like me walking around with a cane like, oh, back in my day, you know these motherfuckers want everything. They want gimme. And it's not because they're greedy. It's because they are collectors. The Overwatch community is one of the biggest skin collectors of any game. They want it all. So, yes, he's got a point. He actually heard last year that they wanted choice, and he's actually capitalized on that, and he was like, you know what, you want choice? I'll give you choice. And he's goated for that. But what he failed to realize was, in his analogy, if you don't go to the restaurant, you order everything. The difference was, last year we were going to a restaurant and there was only one thing on the menu. Now that there's a whole menu of items, now they want everything on the menu. You don't have to give it to them for free, because I know it's a game, like, you gotta make money somewhere. And even in the Winter Pass, my whole opinion of it was like, I didn't think it was bad, just not being able to get everything in the paid pass is bad. I'm like, hell, I would have spent an extra $3-5. Like, let's say it's $5 for the pass that they were giving us. What if I can spend $8 instead of $5 and get it all, right? Like, hey, dude, I'm in. Like, now I can opt into getting more tickets. That's where they f***ed up. But the only reason they f***ed that up is because there are a lot of these people on the dev team that are new people. They weren't here in Overwatch 1. They don't know a lot of the community sentiment around these things, you know?
And so I think we were probably a little bit misguided in just thinking like, oh, everyone will be totally cool with this, right? Because like obviously you wouldn't be able to get all of these things for $5 in the game. That's like us giving more away than I think we could reasonably do. But the way that we framed it was like we put it all out there. You can't get everything, and so people are frustrated by that, which I get. So for us, the learnings from this are like, do we want to do one of these again? If so, do we want to do it this way? If we do it in a different way, should we just do like a linear, like event pass or something like that, where like you do get everything just for paying for it, but there's no choice really. It's just about like how you grind it out. I don't know.
Right.
The last thing I'll say is like,
I like the choice though. Choice is good.
We get a lot of feedback before people experience
know.
a thing, and then we get a lot of feedback after people experience a thing. Sometimes that feedback is the same.
He's right.
It's not.
He's really right, and like we're all guilty of this, myself included. We want choice. Gamers should like the good example is Captain Reaper last year. We gave away Captain Reaper for free. Everyone was like, great, I got a Reaper skin that I don't even know. I don't even play Reaper. Who cares? I want the choice to get something, right? That's what choice is. They gave us choice, but it wasn't the choice. It wasn't enough of the choice that, you know, like, it's not his fault though. They're rights.
You know, we'll put the event out. We'll see how people like it once they play it and get the stuff, and then we'll make our final decision then. But at least knowing that people were frustrated by this, like, inability to get everything that was part of the menu.
I just realized that I paid $60 once and got free skins for 7 years. Now that's next to impossible, not even close. Yeah.
You're right in that purely monetarily, for 500 credits, you're getting a legendary skin, which is cheaper than on par. But I think it's that play time mixed into it, which is making players feel like they're kind of losing out on something because they've paid for the pass, but then they're also grinding in the game. And so they're grinding to get these tickets, but then they can't actually get everything that's on offer. So it is perhaps unintentionally reminiscent of like one of those fairground things where you're like, oh, actually, I can't get all the cool toys at the top. I can only get like a few of the medium ones.
Yeah, totally. And like, this is one of those areas
SVB makes a really good point with that, because I think the Rhine skin on the free pass, like without paying anything, you cannot get the Rhine one or the Widow one. You can get one of the Ilari or Cass or Bap skins and then like some other little stuff. But on the free one, you can't even get them. You have to get the paid version.
I think the Overwatch community is every game community is like unique, right? They all have their own characteristics. There's stuff that is like totally normal and fine in some communities and like complete anathema to other communities. And this is one where, like, we thought the model was generous, but I still do think the model is pretty generous. Like, you know, you're able to get 4 skins for
Wait, you also got a free to play and not free to play model with less hackers and far less throwers? Ain't no way you came in my chat and told me that Overwatch 1 had less throwers and hackers than Overwatch 2. Get that shit the f out of here. You think that because Overwatch 2 is free to play, we have more throwers nowadays and hackers? Maybe if you went statistically by numbers because the player base is higher, sure. But percentage-wise, I don't think so. I don't think so. That dude, you didn't see back in my day. Back in my day, people didn't. The report system was cosmetic. I had a game with 4 streamers. We had 4 of the biggest streamers in Overwatch. It was me, Emong, Jay, and Surefour. And we had a guy dropping actual N-bombs in that game. That guy never got banned. I saw him 2 weeks later.
That's way better than you can do normally for just normal skin in the shop. But we have to listen to what is unique about the Overwatch community, and people kind of being frustrated by that is really helpful for us. So.
And just to confirm, can you get the skins afterwards? Like the skins that if you can't get all of them by playing, will they arrive in the shop later?
So anything's the prime.
I wish I knew the answer to this question, and I don't know the shops. So I can't. The things that it's like, usually you can get the stuff in the hero gallery, and then often we'll run stuff in the shop after it runs for the first time. I don't remember our exact plans for this one. I have to be totally honest. It's the end of the year, and like my brain is mush from 2023.
No worries.
So part of it.
No, I understand as a creator when it's like I might dedicate my life to this game, but it doesn't mean I have the answer to every single intricate nuance of the thing.
What do you mean? You have to, streamer. You can't not have an answer. Come on now.
The final one on specific monetization things. It's one that I am kind of more personally interested in as well. Which is about the hero paywalling, or let's say the hero potential paywalling. You can playwall.
Okay.
But when you and I
I've never heard that term before. By the way, that's
right. Well, that is about the hero paywalling, or let's say the hero potential paywalling. You can playwall them. But when you and I
I've never heard that term before. By the way, that's
right. Right. So you can of course play and unlock them, but you can also buy them, and they're in the premium battle pass. And about a year ago, when John, you and I had a call here, we kind of were talking about, that was when you had just roughly introduced the idea. The community was obviously very skeptical of it. And
we lost a good one when John left.
Was something along the lines that, look, we recognize that heroes are like our best product, the thing that people want to say the most, so we got to monetize them, which I think fair observers will say, okay, reasonable, you guys have to monetize your game. But another aspect of that was that this messaging around Overwatch 2's launch had a lot to do with, well, counterpicking. We don't want it to really be a thing. We don't want hard counters to be a thing in our game. And we've looked at the player behavior, and players kind of gravitate to a few heroes, and they like to play those heroes. So we want to let them play those heroes and kind of live out their preferred experience of Overwatch 2. We've kind of moved to an area now where, you know, counter swapping, counter picking is a real thing in Overwatch. You guys acknowledged this in your last dev blog. And it kind of creates this problem where your initial marketing or messaging, I should say, that we're paywalling the heroes because we think people will get the ones they want. We're now in a situation where people will quite frequently need to swap to a hero that they don't have access to. And we're creating a potential pay-to-win advantage here, where if you don't have a certain hero, your team is requiring...
Does anyone have the clip of... whose game was it? Someone had a game the other day where they were getting shit on, left the game, bought the battle pass to come back as Maga. Some tank player. I don't know who was it. There's a clip out there somewhere. I saw it on Twitter. It was so funny. I if someone finds it midstream, I'd love to see it.
This chain of counter swaps, specifically on like,
and they won after that. Yeah,
tank roll or something. You're kind of at a tangible disadvantage now. So
yeah.
I was curious as to how you guys address this, because I personally am quite
what a
unhappy
time
with
to
it,
have my subversary. How's it going? Did I miss the PO box stuff?
No, it'll be tomorrow. Thank you for 30 months. I appreciate it.
I'm open to hearing what you guys what your thoughts on it are.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on it. The you know, not to throw shade at past us, I think it was pretty.
We have a link. All right, everybody squint at the screen.
This is soldier.
No way. No,
So the guy leaves. Guy leaves the game.
no way. No f***ing way. No f***ing way he leaves to buy the battle pass. No f***ing way he leaves to buy the
Comes, rejoins the game.
No way. There's no way.
Wait, did he go buy it?
If he fucking...
And then comes out on Maga.
No. He bought it. He bought it. What the bro?
Did they win though? Yes, they were getting full held for 2 minutes until he went Maga. They won that game. Again, very good, very fair question.
Naive to assume that in a game where you know you're making heroes that are distinct from each other, that you could avoid counter swapping in that way, especially because like think about our game as a hero based game compared to others. Like part of what makes Overwatch special, in my opinion, is that you know not only do the heroes bring life to the world and everything else, but like they have really sharp edges. And what I mean by that is like they have very unique gameplay kits that are not like kind of homogenous with like a 5% difference. Like they are wildly distinct from each other. So like look at something like look at the launch roster of heroes in Overwatch compared to the roster of heroes today, and how many like you know new mechanics have been added. Like Wrecking Ball exists. Like that's crazy compared to other kits in the everything is just what makes them special is that they have these like pretty crazy abilities that are unique to them. And so to make heroes like that and not expect that you would end up in a situation where as your roster grows to 40, 50, 60 heroes that you would then end up with some hard counters, I think was naive. And you're seeing that in the game today, like you just said. So take that as this initial like goal that I don't think we're going to be able to succeed on. There will always be some number of counters in the game because that's how it's going to work. And then look at sort of like, okay, so take that away and where are you? Would I like for every single player to be able to experience a hero the day that a season drops? Yes. Do I think that we will get there? Yes, I do think that we will get there, and we're actively working towards it right now. Can I talk about the details? No, I can't. But I recognize that it's an issue, and it's something that we do want to address in the game because we're not actively hitting that first goal. You know, part of it is also us just making sure that like we're balancing that, like we're free to play with fairness. So it's like, yes, obviously you can earn every hero. You don't have to buy them. But like you said, there's this period of time then where does a team have a competitive advantage? That's one of the reasons why we want to change our model going forward, because it doesn't feel great in a game like this that's so dependent on heroes to pull people back.
That's actually, yeah, that's a very surprising and awesome response. So just to clarify, you're saying that look in the future, you kind of want to make it so that everyone can access new heroes on the launch of a season.
That is the goal, yes.
That is the goal. Okay, obviously I won't pin you to like a specific commitment, but okay, it's good to know that is your goal. Any thoughts for returning players? Because obviously the problem, that's great for current players, but there is a potential problem, especially the longer the game goes on, that like when you haven't played for a few seasons, you come back and the heroes are locked out, and it does actually take a little bit of time to get them.
Yeah,
like 30,
I had this exact thing happen in a game the other day, where I had a guy that hadn't played in a while, but he was still in GM. What's it called? I had a guy who was playing Ana, and he was like, "Oh yeah, like I haven't played since like season 4." He was still really good, and he was like, "Yeah, I can't play Alara, I can't play Lifeweaver, and when I play tank, I can't play like he was a tank player too. He's like, I can't play Maga because I don't have Maga, I don't have Ram, I don't have Junker Queen, I don't have anything." I was like, "Oh shit." So it makes a good point. Also, what a freeze frame for SVB here.
5 wins and stuff. It takes a while to get them, and that again brings us back to this competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, I think that's the exact kind of thing that we'll be looking at. In addition to the way that the battle pass works, yeah, we'll be looking at the how do I go back and acquire the heroes that have come out since I've been out of the game. I think that there will always be something there, just so that we have some interesting sort of like. I always worry about a situation where you put someone in front of a game and there's like, 50 heroes for them to pick from, 60 heroes, 70 heroes for them to pick from, and it's like I don't even know where to start or like how to get back into it.
Yeah,
so,
the
like,
illusion of
there's
choice,
always
having
this
too many
sort of balance
choices.
between easing people
Not illusion
back
of
into
choice, sorry.
something or easing-
I forget what it's called. It's like when you are overwhelmed by having too many choices.
and like giving people the freedom to just like do whatever they want, because like you might not believe it, but like,
Analysis paralysis.
sometimes when you give people access to literally
Sounds like it
everything all
actually,
at
too.
once, they'll get overwhelmed and then churn out really fast because it's like I don't even know where to begin with this, which is why tutorials usually kind of like ease you into mechanics or to different concepts. And so I don't know exactly what we'll do with returning players acquiring those heroes when they come back, but that is something that we want to like find a better balance for, in terms of like, yeah, there's some time spent kind of like easing yourself back into the game, playing different things, but then also like you'll have the optionality to swap into something if your team needs it.
Right,
So
'cause
this would sound, maybe this is a little crazy, but if they're really concerned about that, maybe they make it so that if they remove like, oh, you have to play 10 games of support to unlock the next whatever, it's actually like in order, right? So like, let's say I don't have Ana unlocked, right? I'm sorry, let's say I don't have Ana unlocked, and then I don't have Lifeweaver unlocked, and then I don't have... Actually, sorry, Kiri would be a better example. Let's say I don't have Kiri unlocked, let's say I don't have Lifeweaver unlocked, let's say I don't have Ilaria locked, right? Let's say I have to play Ana to unlock Kiri, and then once Kiri's unlocked, I have to play 3 games of Kiri to unlock Lifeweaver, and then to unlock Ilaria, I have to play 3 games of Lifeweaver. That way, like, you're getting to play a little bit of the heroes to unlock the next one. Obviously, it's all through Quickplay, but that way, if they're really worried about the, like, being overwhelmed, it's like you had to play whatever the most recent hero is that got unlocked to unlock the next one. So, like, you're giving the person time to learn while they're unlocking the next thing. That way, they're still working through and unlocking all the things that they might have missed, but also not being completely left in the dark. Right? That's the only thing I could think of.
5.
All right, let's
But
continue.
then on the other
Sorry.
hand, obviously,
Stop,
as we've
Ruben.
said, if Overwatch is different in the sense that it's swapping in the middle of the game. So you're naturally going through larger sections of the roster. And again, as we've said, if needing to pick one thing at a certain point in time is a competitive advantage, then obviously that's something you guys have to navigate, right?
Totally. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? Like I worked on and played League for many years. And like, if you look at my actual champ mastery in that game, there's like 6 champs that I play a lot, and there's 140 plus that I just haven't really touched. And it's just, it can be overwhelming, right? So some people are totally fine with that. People who are like ultra hardcore, latch onto stuff really fast. Like, we don't want to hold them back anymore.
I am, Ruben. I am.
But like, we also
You streaming today?
protect people from this idea that like, oh my god, I have to understand 40 plus things today. Like that's a lot.
Right. Although, the flip side is obviously
You
there's the
know
Dota
those
approach as
6
well, which is
champs?
like, they have all the heroes, but obviously maybe that's like a different vision for the game. Maybe they're a bit more hardcore in that way. But okay.
I would argue that Dota's a little more hardcore than Overwatch in terms of mechanics. It's a pretty hardcore game. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. That's totally understandable. Okay. So we're gonna move on now from monetization to Quickplay, because this is something that has been another contentious point recently. One that personally caught me by surprise, actually, which is you guys have introduced a lot of Quickplay lever penalties now.
Fixing
So
the
like there's a timeout if you
Sure,
leave
water,
4
yeah,
out
thank you for the
of,
200
out
for
of
6
your
months
last
in
20 and
advance.
6 out of your last 20 games.
Thank you so much. You're
increases.
crazy. I appreciate it.
So firstly, just your
Here it
guys'
comes,
note
Pepe
on these-
laugh.
on-
Uh-oh.
on the penalties itself, and I want to ask a couple more questions about Quickplay itself, but just on the penalties, like what is the vision? And there seems to be a lot of negative feedback. Are you okay with it for the wider ecosystem of Quickplay?
Yeah, I have like a very specific viewpoint on this, which is I am extremely okay with it. Like I think the increased penalties are critical to the success of the game going forward. So I understand the like frustration that some people have with it, but Overwatch is a team sport. Like it is more than a lot of other games.
Gotta be very careful with that one, Jared. That one's gonna bite you in the ass later. Gotta be careful with that wording of Overwatch being a team sport or a team game, because at the highest level, you're not allowed to play with friends or have a team. Don't forget about that. It's not allowed. So, like, why would you be allowed to play with teams up until a certain point in a team sport? Gotta be real careful with that one. Gotta be real careful, because I guarantee that can come back in a future argument.
But Overwatch is a team sport. Like it is more than
it's changing though. They were very specific though that they said most, which means that it's very likely that top 500 / the new rank of ultimate or whatever will still not have it, but what is GM today will have it. So what's going to happen is all the GM1 players who are hard stuck at the top of GM1 are just going to get bumped up to ultimate / top 500, and then the rest of GM will get to play together, right? So it's just kind of like, like it widens it up a little bit more, which is great. So like on off roll, say off roll, DPS / support, I can play with Emong and CarQ and Jay. We can all stack again, right? Because like most of us are GM on our off rolls too, right? Because GM in Overwatch 2 is arguably way easier than Overwatch 1
Merry
GM
Christmas.
was. And that's not trying to be elitist, that's just how it feels. Dark Flame things is 10 months. I appreciate it. So I don't know. Well, there's a lot to talk about there. Anyways, let's go.
We'll have with it, but Overwatch is a team sport. Like it is more than a lot of other games. Like this isn't a game that has super high solo carry potential, right? Like in a game with power creep as part of the core loop, like at the end of the game, in a MOBA, if your top laner is like wildly out of control, then like you can just steamroll the other team, and every individual person matters a little bit less, in some of those games. But in Overwatch, solo carrying is like pretty tough. And if somebody leaves, like the potential impact to the overall game is huge. And I'm like a big basketball nerd, so I tend to think about this in terms of like if you're playing a pickup game at the park or whatever. And if you get these 10 people together, you finally get a game going, you're halfway through it, and then somebody like literally just walks off the court and walks onto some other court and starts playing with them, and then you're all sort of like, well, what do we do now? That sucks. That sucks for those 9 people.
I don't like this analogy. I don't like it. This reminds me of that one guy from the TikTok. I don't like this one at all, because it's not like a basketball. It's a video game. Reminds me of that TikTok, dude. The TikTok. You know what I'm talking about. At that YMCA, what happens when you stepped in to play the 5v5 and the other team's got LeBron and LeBron's running your team down? You want to just leave, dude. You just want to peace out, like, and I don't think that's the same thing. You know what I mean? And like IRL, there's much more pure conflict and pressure, and there's like, you don't have to like leave to go change your baby's diaper or some shit. Dude, I'm not a big fan of that. I say that though as a fan. Not a fan. I do say that as understanding and like not totally against the quick play lever penalty. They are kind of getting kind of extreme though, And so I would wonder how many quick play games have gotten worse. And by worse, I measure in both less fun and more people just kind of like just stop playing, right? Because I definitely have more games now, even as like a regular, like just playing quick play. I have more teams that people like flame and get annoyed because they can't leave the game anymore. So now they treat it like comp, and if they're losing, they're like, oh, what the fuck, swap or whatever. Like instead of like normally they just leave the game, now they're just toxic or kind of annoyed, you know. And yeah, you can report them, and yeah, they're gonna probably get banned. But like, then you also have people that just kind of stop trying and they kind of go AFK, and it's just like you just let them go, let them be free. You know, if they're not leaving every single game they play, I think it's fine. Like if they only leave like 2 games an hour, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, you know. But with how strict it is now, it's like,
them, and then you're all sort of like, well,
because it restricts you from playing everything, right? You can't play comp. What am I looking at? If you're a player that's afraid to share your Instagram, you're a loser, literally. Why would you just go around asking for people's Instagram in video games? Isn't that kind of weird? Like we're talking about something totally different. I mean, that is the most classic first time chatter I've seen in a long time, but I'm talking about the players that call others out real life. What? What are you talking about? Anyways, let's continue.
What do we do now? That sucks. That sucks for those 9 people. And, you know, sometimes it ends up working out better. Like that person had a negative attitude. Somebody comes in, and I've lost track of the number of times that we've turned it around and won the game. But like, it is not a good experience. And like, what we really want is, you know, to acknowledge the fact that life happens. And so if, you know, I have 2 kids, like sometimes they'll be in the other room and they'll throw up or spill something on the floor, or somebody delivers a package, like that happens. And so, you know, if you need to leave every once in a while,
I see what he's saying. I know what he's saying, but
like if you're the kind of person, and we saw this a lot, where you were leaving the majority of your matches at some point. Like we had people that are like 90+% leaving matches.
Yeah, that's crazy. They talked about that before. Like,
hey, Mr. Flat Sky, can I get your IRL address so when I play against you for the first time, I can send someone to unplug your internet and then say skill dip?
let's move on, okay? Let's move on. These are Twitter bits. But yeah, basically, I understand what he's saying, and he's like, it's been a good change, and they statistically see that, but I wonder how much of that maybe beyond stats are not good. Like, it's affecting the way players look at the game. You know, like, they don't even want to play Overwatch because, like, you know, like, oh, I could get a couple games in before I gotta go. It's like, oh, well, if I gotta go right now, if I leave, I'm gonna get banned. Like, that's stupid. I don't even play the game. Or, like, their friends don't want to play it as much because they get banned out of a quick play game. Or just, like, you know, like, almost like the culture aspect. You know what I mean? Like, their stats might look like it's better. And I'm not disagreeing that there should be for the people that are leaving 90% of their games. But I think they might have gotten a little too strict recently. I think the original ones were pretty good.
Whatever they
and they even said that the most recent ones might not even be strict enough, which is like, guys, like, let's pump the brakes. That's my personal opinion, though.
This is like a wave of badness for everybody else trying to play the game, right? And so, like, what I want.
Wait, what? So someone who doesn't play the game as much, or so doesn't play the game enough to want to play comp, and therefore plays quick play and would like to win/enjoy the games I do play. That it's just quick play attitude. It's kind of ass, and the one reason I haven't played since season 3. And, like, I mean this with all due respect, so you're kind of a bitch. Like, if you don't care about the game, why are you afraid of comp? Right? Like, genuinely. What's the point? Like, there's no way you're high rank. And I don't mean that to be, like, I'm not trying to be, like, a dick. Like, I'm trying to say this in the most basic way I can. Because, like, why are you scared of ranked if you don't even play it that often? So you're probably not that high ranked, which means you'll probably be put into lobbies with people that are at your rank anyways. The people that are there to play quick play are there to just have fun and just have a quick game and then get in and out. If you're there to win and be competitive, that's what comp's for. Comp isn't made up as like this like professional Overwatch League queue. Comp is short for competitive. Competitive is where you go to be competitive. So if you want to play the game and win and be competitive, then play competitive. You can't be mad or can't not like that people in the quick game mode that are there to just have fun. And some people want to try hard and quick play. Nothing wrong. Like, I understand. I think it's getting a little bit crazy with the matchmaking and whatnot. But hey, if you want people to go sweating to quick play, that's fine. The second you take it out on someone else, though, and start asking them to swap and be like, hey, can we do this? What the f***? You're not healing me. That's when it becomes your problem. That's not a them problem. That's a you problem. Like, if you want to have the competitive experience, play competitive. You know?
What I want to do is ensure that people who have that sort of like more selfish take on, well, I can just.
And don't get me wrong, like the whole sweaty quick play thing is mostly due to matchmaking. That's it. People get super, super tight matchmaking, and it happens in every other game. It happens in COD, it happens in Apex. If you play games with extremely tight matchmaking, the way matchmaking works is it expects you to be on your game. And so if you try to play a game, it happens in COD, right? Like if you try to play COD and then you play mostly meta guns or really good guns, and then you want to play a couple of games you around on some off meta gun, you're just going to get destroyed over and over and over because the game expects you to be on point, right? It's not fun getting destroyed for 3 games straight, so then you swap back to your meta guns, right? So the same thing happens in quick play, where the game expects you to be on almost all times. If you try to around and do something else, you're going to get slammed. So people end up kind of tryharding a little bit more, right? But that's different than flaming your teammates and asking for swaps and all this shit.
Whatever, because who cares? Those people end up, not being able to do what they want in the same way that they can now, and that the people who actually care and are like trying to work through it with a team, who are trying to win, who are like, just in this game to have fun because they can only play it for an hour a night and they're just home from work or whatever. Like, I want them to have a good time, and if people can just dip, that is not allowing them to have a good time. So I feel strongly that we need penalties. I don't think that we're exactly where they need to be. I think that that's going to be something we work on over the course of the next few seasons. But the immediate impact that those changes had was incredible. Like, it was a massive change in our reliever rates, and so I think it's just going to be net better for everybody. So I understand the frustration, but like I feel really strongly this is the right way to go.
Okay, that's really interesting to hear. That kind of holistically, you guys feel like Quickplay is operating better.
Yeah, no, it 100% is like tens of percentages drops in lever rates.
Okay, that's very interesting. Yeah. Which also leads to a good philosophical question.
I'm a little worried about that, but
who is playing Quickplay in your mind? Like, what is the vision of what is?
Before he even answers, the answer to this is every casual player. Comp, I think in Overwatch 1 was like 15. It was like 10 to 20% of the entire player base of Overwatch played competitive. The other 80 played Quickplay. It was insane. The only people who played comp were all the streamers, YouTubers, and hardcore like gamers. Everyone else who ever liked Overwatch played Quickplay only.
Is Quickplay, what is arcade, and what is competitive? Like, who are the people playing the modes, and what are the
Why is Valorant very serious about levers and casual? I don't really play a whole lot of Valorant these days, but Valorant, I would argue, is marketed as much more of a competitive shooter than, say, Overwatch is.
Modes for, because people often disagree that, oh, comp is for this and Quickplay is for that, but what is your guys' vision?
This is, I think, super interesting, and actually I bet that on the team there's probably a little bit of like differing opinions here, but like what I hold to with Quickplay specifically is that a lot of people like creators or like hardcore competitive players, they're like, well, competitive.
You think hardcore gamers are silver or gold? For sure. There absolutely is hardcore gamers that are silver or gold. For sure. I have friends, like IRL friends, that are dog shit at Overwatch. Like when Overwatch 2 launched, they were like, yo, let's play some Overwatch. It's like, absolutely not. I'm like, why won't you play with us? I'm like, because one, you guys play comp only. And they're like, so I'm like, so then you want me to make a Smurf account and come play with you? They're like, yeah, that's fine, just play an off roll. I go, my off roll is still like Masters GM, bro. And they're like, yeah, but it's fine. I go, I am not comp, I am not boosting you all. You're all like silver. You're trash. And then they were like, well, fine, we'll play Quickplay someday and we'll really see. And then I played Quickplay with them one day and they were like, oh my god, how are you this good? And I was like, bro, you don't understand. We live in different universes, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but it's just the way it works. I don't want to ruin your guys' experience. Just go have fun. Just go play comp. Just have a good time. And they play comp video games maybe 4 to 6 hours a day, right? Whether it's Siege, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's Apex, whether it's Overwatch, whether it's Valorant, right? Like, I have friends that play like different things. But like, they work IRL jobs and other stuff, and they're just not that good anymore. Like, they're just kind of old and not that good. They're like gold, but I would say they're comp gamers, So yeah, for sure you can be.
I'm like, it's not. It is. Quickplay is as much the game as competitive, and why I say that because like more people play Quickplay than play comp. Like it is
Yep.
the biggest of the queues. Like it is people, it is.
There's
Overwatch
nothing wrong
for
with
a huge
that,
part of the
but
community.
So
I as the EP for the game need to protect that experience for those people who like only view the game through that one lens of like Quickplay is Overwatch. So people will, I see people be like, why are Quickplay games so sweaty? And I'm like, because Overwatch is a sweaty game. Overwatch is a competitive, fast-paced game, right? Like it's not chill. Like you can play Mystery Heroes and chill out. That's like much more.
I would be very, very surprised if they haven't made matchmaking changes since Overwatch 1. I refuse to believe that. You actually could sit down with me and go, yes, we have not touched the way matchmaking works in Overwatch 2's Quickplay since Overwatch 1. I would concede defeat and go, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just, it's a me thing and I don't understand. There's no way it hasn't been changed because it's way stronger nowadays. Just like Apex did it a long time ago. Apex didn't really like say anything, and then all of a sudden it got super sweaty in pubs, and they were like, yeah, we changed the matchmaking. Like, and everyone's like, why? Everyone went from loving pubs to hating it now. Nobody plays pubs in Apex now, and most people that play pubs also play comp, and they're also going in the way people view it. Their player numbers haven't moved a whole lot. I mean, it actually has. It's dropped like a decent amount, but it's not like they're dead. But they're definitely not doing a ton, and it feels like it's getting worse. And they're having the Overwatch effect over there, where all their competitive players and streamers and pros are just fucking spiraling. They're just spiraling, and they're getting madder and madder and madder and madder, and they don't understand that tornado, we've watched it happen before. It's gonna get worse. It's gonna keep getting worse. And they're not putting the brakes on it. And like, I'm not saying Overwatch has that issue with Quickplay. I'm just saying that like, it is, yes, Overwatch is a sweaty game, sure. But I think when you have extremely, extremely, extremely tight matchmaking like that, you can very quickly turn yourself off to the game when it's not a competitive game mode.
So I tend to view, Quickplay and competitive both as...
Seagull's vibing in Apex right now? I thought he was playing the finals.
Or of what Overwatch is. And I view Arcade as a more casual sort of like, you can be there to goof off and have fun with friends, or you can be there...
What? So Arcade is the goof off game mode now? Nah. You can't even play 5v5 at the normal health pools in Arcade. Like, if you play Arcade, your tanks are 300 HP instead of 500 HP. So, like, there goes a whole roll. I don't know about that one.
There to try out new stuff or, whatever. But this opinion that like Quickplay is somehow like secondary to competitive is in my mind not right. Like that's not what the game is. The game is Quickplay and competitive, and they're both like maybe hardcore is not the right way to put it, but they're both pretty intense, and that is what this game is.
Right. So
I'm real. I don't want to say annoyed, but I'm a little confused by that because like, you treat comp and Quickplay the same way. There's no difference between the two. What's the point of even having two modes at that point? You know what I mean? Like, you need to have it somewhat be inviting, right? I guess other than the fact that you just don't have a number there, I guess. Like, it's just remove the anxiety of the number, but like, wasn't the whole point of the competitive changes going into Overwatch 2 to make competitive less daunting? Maybe they just realized that there's nothing they can do to fight gamer anxiety, and so that's why they're giving comp. Wait, holy shit. What if they just figured out that there's nothing they can do to fight gamer anxiety, and they're giving the comp players exactly what they want, like a super in-depth, like, you got points for this, didn't get points for this, got points for this, went up this much, need this much to go to rank up, or whatever, because the comp gamers will always go to that, but the quick play gamers will never go near it no matter what, because they're too scared to play ranked. So that's why they're giving comp players what they want, but they're just going to make quick play just as sweaty, so that the difference between comp and quick play is one has numbers that go up and down, but they play the same. Oh my Jesus. I mean, I guess that just means I'd just play quick play or quick play only days are kind of gone. It's just back to comp, I guess. But so you think it's tier 1. Either way, though, I don't know. That's a little something.
You're kind of putting them on a similar pedestal.
Five things
like,
in 4
what
months.
is that kind of the competitive is just like the notch up? Is that
Yeah,
fair to say?
I think it's just, you know, people who care about that sort of like that having that rating applied to themselves, who always want to push it a little bit further. The way that I view it, I'll give you like my personal version of it, which is
There's all things
I
4 months.
care a lot about feeling like I'm getting better at something every single match. Like I've moved from this sort of like extrinsic reward motivation, where, and this is using nerdy game developer terms, but like extrinsic is like something is telling me or validating me for being good. Like I'm getting something from outside of myself for it. Versus intrinsic, which is like I am playing the game because I want to feel like I'm getting better every single time, or I am validating myself for like this experience I had, like, oh, my Ana's getting better, or like, oh, I learned how to do this thing with Reinhardt that I couldn't do before. Like that's the kind of thing that I play Quickplay for. So comp, I think, is more about like having that thing that is telling you kind of like how good you are compared to where you were, how good you are compared to other people. It gives you something to brag about, and like, you know, that has like higher stakes. It's like a higher stakes version of Quickplay. Where Quickplay is just the game, and it's just you are playing for whatever your reason is. Mine is to feel like I'm getting better. Other people's is to have fun with their friends. It's, you know, it just depends. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's like above. It's just the motivation is different.
Right. That's very.
Wait, isn't that kind of what I just said? Wait, so that really is it? They're going to be the exact same game mode, just one has numbers attached. So you have something to brag about and compare to other people. That's it. The game mode itself will be the exact same. I don't know about that one. I don't like that. And the worst part is I can't even have this argument in good faith, because anytime you have the argument about matchmaking, you always get some chuckle that comes in and goes, well, you just want to stomp on low rank players. No, I don't. If I wanted to do that, I'd make reverse Smurf accounts and stream me just literally getting 5Ks against shit players all day long. Like, when have I ever done that? Never. Literally not a single time in my whole streaming career. So, like, that's clearly not it, you know? So it's like, you can't even have the argument. You can't even talk to people about it. It's just, I don't know. I think it really, 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 really takes some of the fun out of it. You know? You don't get those high highs and low lows anymore. You just always middle of the road, you know?
No, that's very, very interesting. So yeah, I think that definitely affirms the idea that Quickplay is not for leaving, because I think there has been this idea that like it's this very, you don't really commit to anything when you click the Quickplay button. You're just kind of like, it's fine, I'll play 5 minutes and then I'll leave. But you guys are kind of the feeling that no, you're kind of, you should have the 10 minutes or whatever that it takes for a Quickplay game when you queue into a Quickplay game.
100%. Like this is not a game that has 40-minute matches. You know what I mean? Like if you're jumping into Quickplay, the time commitment is pretty short, and so the expectation that I have, and that, you know, we want players to have, is if you're going to play in Quickplay, like, be there for the match. Dip after, that's fine. But like, you know, you're committing to these 9 other people to see this thing through, and like the 4 people on your team when you leave are going to be.
Yeah, that's a good point on that. Also, if you join a game and you want to learn a hero, you can't Quickplay. People just shit on you for no reason. It's a dick move. Play arcade isn't good unless you put roll lock in arcade to make it realistic enough to be Quickplay. You make a really good point there. They actually went back to the lever penalty. The lever penalty isn't even like, you know, like I'm kind of like, I think it's a little too strict, but like, you know, I have more of a concern over like the cultural aspect of people being like, well, yeah, statistically it looks like it's really good, but you know, are people going to not play Overwatch as much anymore? They don't even want to queue up because like they're like, oh, I can't have time, or you know, I don't even I know I could leave and be fine half the time when CarQ invites me. I don't even leave the Quickplay game. I'm like, oh god, like, you know, don't want to get banned. You know, don't want to get banned. You know what I mean? But like then it makes me less want to play. It doesn't make me want to play as often. But you make a good point that when you start treating Quickplay extremely seriously, I feel like you almost kind of enable that, I guess. And it's like people wanting to try hard and wanting swaps and wanting all this other stuff. It's like, where do you go to learn at that point? You know, like that's what Quickplay, like you don't really get a great experience learning in Quickplay. You know, at least historically, you kind of should be playing comp to learn, but like not mechanically. Like you mechanically learn in Quickplay, but like once you get the mechanics down, like the buttons on what things you hit, then you play in comp, right? But I can't tell you how many times I see people always say like, I don't even get to play what I want in Quickplay anymore because I get people screaming at me or counter swapping me up the ass, and you know, it's just not fun. It's just not fun, you know.
They want to win, and now they're down, and it changes the dynamics of the match, and it's not okay, you know.
Per things it's one.
Totally fair. Okay, awesome. So we're gonna move on now from Quickplay, and we're gonna talk now big picture things. We've had a good little nitty gritty of like current issues, but now I kind of want to talk about big picture things. You know, we've had a year now about to end, and it's potentially going to be a very changed year for Overwatch come 2024. But how do you guys reflect on 2023 for Overwatch? Because, you know, this was your first year as Overwatch 2. And of course, we spoke when you were just kind of launched the game. So from now to then, kind of just big picture to start with, how does the team feel on the year that's gone by?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny talking, like, I always feel bad representing the team, right? It's like hundreds of people, and everyone, I think, has a bit of a different take. But, you know, speaking as you know, the lead for the team and as someone who, you know, focuses a lot on, like, strategy and direction, the way that I feel about it is 2023 was wild. Like, what a roller coaster of a year on, like, just a whole bunch of different
You ain't kidding.
What was exciting about it to me was when I joined like 2 weeks after the game launched or something like that. That was when I joined the team for the first time. And I came in with my own ideas of what I wanted, you know, the team to be focused on: better communication, like more responsive balancing and updates for players, like a lot of just like make the game like a top quality live game experience. And everybody else had different stuff. Like they, you know, artists wanted to make the best art, designers wanted to make the most interesting heroes. Like everyone had their own sort of thing, but where it all comes together is like, we want to make a great game. We finish these meetings we do 3 times a week as a team, and it's like, hey, let's go make a great game. And everyone rallies around that sort of like cry. And so I view this as like the beginning of the journey of making Overwatch 2 a great game. Like, I think it's great today. I think it's going to be even better, you know, going forward. And if you look at how much it's evolved over the past year, like for me, it's kind of staggering. Like, it isn't a different game. So I'm not saying it's evolved in the way that you would come in and be like, I've never cared about Overwatch before. Now, with these changes over the past 12 months, it's like a different thing I'm going to try. I'm like, no, it's Overwatch.
There's some low-hanging fruit that are sitting there, but I completely agree with it so far. It's funny.
But the way that we have, like, improved, the things we've learned from some of the missteps,
Overwatch 1.5,
the ideas that we have for next year that build on the things that we've learned, like, it really feels like the beginning of this journey and like the first few steps that we're taking feels super positive. Where at the beginning of you know, the year this year or at the end of last year, it really felt like that sort of like chaos of, okay, we launched a thing and now let's figure out exactly, you know, what to do and what our next step should be, and oh, let's change a thing for season 2 and season 3. Like, it was just, you know, it was much more kind of like frantic, and now it feels like, yeah, we've learned a bunch. We have a direction that we feel like is good, and there's a bunch of like hype stuff coming up next year that you know, makes me super excited about where we're going. So, sorry, a long-winded answer. But,
yeah, I love to hear
come back. It feels like the beginning of a journey where, you know, the first few steps had some like positive notes and some negative notes, and now it's like, all right, let's go. Let's just move forward. We know what the game is.
Right. That is actually really interesting, because that's kind of my take as well, actually. To say 2023 was a little hectic is a bit of an understatement, I think. I think Overwatch 2 launch was fun because it was so new. There was so much stuff, but man, they just, when I say like you tripped, you fell, you rolled for a little bit, stood up, tripped again, but got up, took a few more steps, tripped again, but it was still like, you know, like it was like a car crash you can't look away from, but it was so fun. But then, like, you know, around that season 4 place, it just got quiet. It got real quiet. And like around even season 3 was balanced pretty well, but like in fun, but like they went quiet. They just like stopped talking. Like once the game came out, and it was like, guys, what happened to all the marketing, the tournaments? Not saying I'm a tournament guy, but like just in general, what happened to the tournaments, the marketing, the talking to the community? Guys, hello? And it was like, once it got out of the gate, it felt very much like we just kind of got like, you know, shut up over there, you know? Oh yeah, they turned off Drop season 4. Lifeweaver was a bit of a disappointment. It was just like, guys, what's going on over there? Might Overwatch League get 2 tournaments this year, not 4? Good questions. I'm sure you have plenty of opinions on Overwatch League stuff, and I do as well. But yeah, it just felt like we kind of got, at least to me as a creator, okay? I think I've said this once before, but I never really like went too much in depth with it. But like, it felt very much once Overwatch 2 came out, like a lot of us got used as like hype and marketing, like going into the game. It was like, hell yeah, like it's fun. And like even streamers from other games saw like, oh hey, you guys are actually having fun over there. And it's like, yeah, and it's like, all right, well, come check it out. And then a lot of people that would never play Overwatch came over to check it out for a bit, and it was fun. But then like once it started to like lose its luster just a little bit, we just got told like, fuck off, you know, and just like everyone went dark. And it was just like, what the hell? And then it stayed like that for a couple months, and it didn't feel like it was getting better. And then PVE cancellation hits, and it was just like, holy shit, we're f***ed. Like, we're literally doomed. Like, we're literally doomed. And then Season 6 hit, and the PVE got released, and it was fun, but like, very clearly you could tell it was just not what it was supposed to be. It was just like, you know? But I remember around that Season 5, Season 6 time, dude, things looked shit. Things looked fucking terrible. And then they kind of like, everyone kind of like calmed down and was like, okay, now what? And so then they kind of came back and started talking a little bit again. And they were like, yeah, we're sorry about the PvE stuff, but you know, we want to focus on PvP, you know? And that was when they responded to SK's video about ranked, that I also watched and reacted to. They started trying to like come around into chats again. Like, you can see in my chat quite often, not today because it's Christmas Eve, and who the hell works on Christmas Eve, am I right? There I am streaming. But like, they pop into chat and like answer random questions from chat. And like, there's game designers, community, Gavin, the guy who does like half their like systems with like ranked and stuff. I see you. But yeah, so basically, which, oh God, I hope you've been good. But yeah, you see them pop in all the time and just randomly just answer shit, you know? And it's so funny. And it kind of felt like they were kind of like, it kind of felt like they came out of hiding, right? And then to me, I kind of rationalized it a little bit and was like, why did they go quiet for like 4 months? And then that bomb hit, and then all of a sudden they're back. And I was like, wait. And then we watched like the announcement, like the video that came out, and like they had known for like 6 months that this bomb was coming. And I was like, holy shit, I wonder how scared they were. They were probably terrified to even like show their faces, because like they knew it was coming, you know? Going back into like September, October, you could see them kind of like coming out and start talking again. And it was really weird to like hear like, okay, like they're addressing a lot of the PvP concerns that we've had for a long time. Like, you know, now that PvE is dead, maybe things are okay. And then BlizzCon happened, and BlizzCon, you know, they came out swinging. They showed a bunch of stuff. We got to try Maga early. They showed off Vantage. They showed off, or they like talked about what was going to be like Space Hero or Space Ranger or whatever. They talked about comp changes. They talked about, yeah, we're so back. And it felt very much alive. Things felt good, right? And so since then, I would say like the hype hasn't died. It's just gone into hibernation. Kind of like at the end of Overwatch 1 before Overwatch 2 came out. Overwatch was never more dead, in my opinion, than August of 2021. Like, it was a ghost town. There was, the category for Twitch was like 3K. Like, everyone was gone. I was gone. Jay was gone. Hell, even Emong was doing a little bit of variety. You know, like you could hear tumbleweeds blowing through. And this season kind of feels a little bit like that, even with the drops. The drops have definitely boosted everybody back up a little bit. The way I talk about drops is like stimulating the Twitch economy. We're getting stimulus drops, which is great. Everything I think kind of hinges on this season 9 at the moment, right? It feels like it hinges on season 9, and we're all kind of sitting here waiting. And it's like, I hope that what Alec kind of hinted at of like, you know, actual fundamental changes to the game.
Support 76 in battle against Ty to get any sort of enjoyment this season.
Thanks to the 6 months. I hope what Alec kind of talked to is like, oh, we have some big changes coming, plus the rank stuff, plus all this other stuff, really gives people another shot to look at Overwatch. And I hope it's good. But what if it flops? Hey, dude, there's a reason why I got that tequila in my freezer, right? Like, there's a reason I got the tequila in my freezer. Like I always said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You know, remember the start of Overwatch 2? Remember, I showed you guys a picture of my freezer at the start of Overwatch 2. I had 3 boxes of Costco Uncrustables and a brand new bottle of tequila. And people were like, Flats, what's the tequila for? I go, if Overwatch 2 sucks. Like, like, and then, like, what? I'm like, oh, God have something on hand, you know? But I will say, though, I'm pretty hopeful. I'm actually more hopeful than I think I've been in a long time. But they definitely got to figure out the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is getting real bad. But they talked about Season 9. You know, they said that they want to make some fundamental changes. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see what happens. But I think right now, more than anything, the reputation of Overwatch is so damaged to the outside world that I'm not sure what they can do to get people's attention again. Because, like, obviously, Overwatch 2 was the big one. But then, like you were saying, Overwatch hasn't changed. And a lot of creators kind of felt like, at least in the beginning, they felt like they kind of stuck up for the game and were like, hey, like, this is actually really fun. And it was really fun, but then it's kind of tumbled off away again. So it's like, what could it be? What could that spark be again? And I don't know. But overall, though, I think 2023 was probably one of the best years for Overwatch in a very, very, very long time. And it's very quietly become a much better game. I think the gameplay loop at this exact moment needs help. But everything outside the gameplay loop at this exact moment, which quite frankly, I just think we power creeped ourselves into a corner. But that's kind of fixable. But you got to go back to the drawing board. Just like, you know, it's not like, oh, we need to adjust Kiriko and Ana and we're good to go. No, like we got to go. Like we just have to hit everything at once. Just like one domino and knock all the heroes down. Like everything just needs to go at once. But once that kind of happens and just mix up the way the game is played, I think things look pretty good. I think other games are sliding. Point blank. I think a lot of games have, other than Fortnite, had a worse year. I think Overwatch had a better year.
Right. So, yeah, it's good to hear that you guys
feel
like you're coming into your groove now. Because I guess for a lot of people...
What's the gameplay loop? Gameplay loop of 2 tanks stand there looking at the other tanks, not dying, getting pumped with healing until somebody explodes. Right? Like, somebody pops like a balloon. Whether they get antied, a Widow headshot, something. Like, both tanks just stand there like 2 menaces, don't die because they're getting so much healing. And then one of them just goes and deletes. The DPS, unless they hit like a crazy headshot on a one-shot hero, don't feel that impactful. And the supports either feel like they're absolutely controlling the entire game with their cooldowns and whatnot, or they feel like they're playing Dead by Daylight. You know, and they're like, oh my god, the tanks are too strong. The tank just walked at me. Well, the tank walked at you once everybody died or like something else happened. But if you also try to 1v1 or 1v2 a support, you just can't get anything. Okay, you want to see this clip? Hold on. You know part 1. Part 2 is officially dropped. 3,
What?
4,
What?
5, 6.
Oh my god.
Merry Christmas, Flats.
Stop laughing. Stop laughing.
Let's go through this. Reflects the sleep dart. Slash and dash. Slash again. Slash.
What?
Slash.
What?
Slash.
Oh my god.
And so people in the comments are arguing. And they're like, well, Kiri used Kitsune. And they used Ananade. I just want to know, how much better was this guy supposed to play this?
What? What?
Because, like, I'm not saying nerf Kiri or anything like that. I just think things have gotten crazy across the board. And 2 cooldowns for an ultimate? And you say, yeah, but she had rush. But, like, the concept of a defensive ult is gone in Overwatch. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore, right? Like, in Overwatch 1, if you played for overtime, sometimes you played Zen or Lucio, even if it wasn't the best pick in that scenario, because if you had to hold for 2 minutes, you knew that they could build a Grav Dragon or some type of ult combo, and you needed a defensive ult to counter one of their ults. But you don't even need defensive ults anymore. You just pick BAP, you pick Kiri. Like, half the time the supports will just survive with a cooldown anyways, right? So I'm not saying that Kiri needs nerfs or something like that, but you also have to sit there and acknowledge that this guy's ultimate just got completely shut down by 2 cooldowns and healing.
Mash him.
What?
Actually, isn't it? Wait, what was the second cooldown? I think it's just one, right? What? It was on a nade.
What?
On a nade and then carry healing, right? Was there any other cooldown there? But it reflects the sleep dart. It's just nade. Nade plus healing.
What? What? Oh my god.
Didn't even Suzu. So, you know, people say like, oh, they traded an ult for an ult. I don't think it's that bad. It kind of is though, because like, oh, I saw this one. Oh, Jesus. This, oh. Oh, oh no. Oh, this one's bad. This one's real bad.
She's not.
Listen, dude. This. Ah, come on.
She's not.
Oh, I think I read through the comments on this one and someone said, wow, you're so shit, you didn't hit a single headshot. I honestly couldn't tell if they were trolling or not because they actually like defend a lot of like support stuff in their replies on other tweets. But anyways, gameplay loop is a little tough at the moment. Not saying you need to nerf supports. I think there's too much damage and too much healing. There needs to be global. It's just too much at this point. A little bit of a tangent on gameplay loop there, but let's continue.
They expect Overwatch to be the culmination of years of effort and work, and they would like drop and beat this game. But you know, maybe in reality, it's kind of like, well, actually, you're just getting into the what Overwatch 2 is supposed to be, and now you're trying to make that vision a reality.
I think that framing is actually better than what I said and much shorter. So yes, thank you. But like, I think there's this misguided sort of like approach that happens in game development sometime, where it's like, we have this idea that's going to be incredible. We're going to drop it on everybody and they'll all love it. And then we'll all just move on to the next thing because we will have created this perfect masterpiece. And you know, you've seen the shift in recent years where that's not the approach. Games like Baldur's Gate, which is like incredible, and I bought in early access, you know, what feels like a long time ago. Like that game learned from its community before it had its big official launch, and that launch went super well. For us, you know, there's this acknowledgement that like the idea that the team could build this like beautiful, perfect thing that they could just kind of bestow on the community and then everything would be fine is like, that's not really how modern games work. That's especially not how competitive games work. Like, you really need to build the game along with your community. And like, that's where we've been focused this year. And so, yeah, it's interesting. It wasn't the culmination of a thing at all. It was, and I used to say this in meetings with the team, it's like, shipping a game is like the beginning of a marathon, especially a live game. Like, this is where, you know, you need to settle in, you have to find your rhythm. You're going to start going a little too fast at first and then get tired, and then you got to like step back and, you know,
Overwatch learning from their players for 6 years now. Best game ever, I guess. It's a little disingenuous, don't you think? We all know that this just started this year. Like, up until this point, Overwatch was a very stubborn, we will do what we think is right team. Can't argue with me on that. Can't argue with me on that one. There's no way. And you'll never get the years back of Overwatch being in the dumpster. We'll never get those years back. Not saying it's okay. But when they say that they're trying to build the game with their community, they mean in this year 2023 that they've done that. And I would argue they have. But in like 6 years before that, absolutely not. A good example was hero pools. Remember hero pools? Remember hero pools where we were like, yeah, we want hero bands. They were like, hey, no, you don't. Here's hero pools. Try these instead.
We're at that point now where, you know, we're a few miles into the marathon.
And then people didn't like it. It's like, see, we told you. It's like, that's all we asked for.
That's great to hear. Great to hear that you guys kind of feel that energy and motivation, and hopefully that'll reflect in what you launch. But you kind
What's a hero pool? Okay, very quick. Basically, the way they decided, people wanted hero bands because Brig was dominating, and it made the game stale, and then like other things after that. So they were like, okay, instead of that, why don't we give you hero pools? AKA, we will tell you what heroes you can play this week. And so it was 1 tank, 1 support, and 2 DPS that got banned every week. And it was based off of a few different things. Some of them were for ladder, some of them were based off of Overwatch League. And there was actually a week where an actual cat, Zoe's cat, chose what heroes we were not allowed to play that week for Overwatch. Not just in Overwatch League, but actually the game. I'm not with you, that was actually real. And we had certain weeks, and it was good because it went off of pick rate, right? Like it basically went off of pick rate and percentages, and also like, you know, there was a bit of a lottery to it, but like, you know, if one character had a super high pick rate, they were probably going to get banned. And there was actually one week where we didn't have Cass or Ash, or was it Cass or Soldier? We didn't have a hit scan that week. It was like Cass, Ash, Bap, something else got banned too. Maybe it was Diva, and it was just Pharah week. Like Pharah, like it was just Pharah v Pharah every game. It was Pharah Mercy versus Pharah Mercy every game, and there was nothing you could do about it. It was awful.
And if you mentioned Baldur's
It was competitive only. Yeah, it was competitive. Quickplay didn't have Hero Pulse.
Gate, also amazing game.
Wait, I don't think so, right? Actually, I didn't play Quickplay at that time, so I don't actually know. I don't think Quickplay did.
Loved every minute of it. That brings up, while Baldur's Gate is
not
your competitors, there are obviously other games out there that are kind of seeking to exist in the rough similar space as Overwatch. How do you guys feel like you have performed compared to your competitors? You know,
no,
I'll say
it wasn't just high elo;
that,
it was
like,
comp.
Valorant,
Period.
And Apex, even Fortnite,
was
such
it?
games, even, you know,
or was
even
it
MOBAs
actually
in
high
some way we
elo?
compete with. Whatever you guys view as your competitors, how do you feel like you've?
No, it was all of comp. It wasn't only for certain ranks. Nah, you guys are crazy. Yeah, it was all of comp.
Performed against them.
You guys are gaslighting me.
I was going to ask you who you think our competitors are, and I feel like you just named a few that.
Oh, hang on. Actually, this is an important question.
You guys view as your competitors, how do you feel like you've performed against them?
It was interesting because I was going to ask you who you think our competitors are, and I feel like you just named a few that it's funny. I was like,
man, I'm sorry. I got to back up even further. I missed the SVB's beginning.
There are obviously other games out there.
My bad.
That are kind of seeking to exist in the rough similar space as Overwatch. How do you guys feel like you have performed compared to your competitors? You know,
I guess he didn't.
I'll say you don't have to say that, like, you know, Valorant and Apex,
there it is.
Even Fortnite, such games, even, you know, even MOBAs in some way we compete with. Whatever you guys view as your competitors, how do you feel like you've performed against them?
It was interesting because I was going to ask you who you think our competitors are, and I feel like you just named a few that it's funny. I was like, kind of reflecting on this myself, and what's interesting is I don't really think that we have like specific, unique one-for-one competitors, right? Like in the marketplace, like Overwatch, you know, shares elements with a bunch of different games, but like it feels unique. And so I don't want to cop out on the question, but just to start it, like it really did feel like for me that like, there really isn't like a game that's exactly this, that's doing exactly this thing. And so, you know, when I think about Fortnite,
everyone's saying Paladins crying in the corner. I don't know anything about Paladins, but
it's like Fortnite is like the everything game. And like Lego Fortnite, I played it before work today. Like it's great. It's wild, and like the way that they change their entire like map constantly, the way that they introduce new mechanics kind of constantly into the game. Like Fortnite is awesome, but it's the everything variety game, which is not us, right? But we are both shooters, so I guess there's some overlap there. Right. Apex is like BR, it's like speed BR, you know, maxed out, right? Like it's crazy movement, traversal stuff. It's like big open world. So, like it is. I love Apex. It's just also very different from us. And Valorant.
Apex really isn't that much different though. Overwatch has a lot of movement mechanics and a lot of movement tech in it. Like Overwatch is extremely fast paced for a competitive shooter. If you want to argue competitive hero shooter, sure, but I would argue Apex is probably the closest. That's not like a hero, like a Paladins type of thing, because the speed of the game is similar to Overwatch's. Ability usage dictates fights in a lot of ways, but also comes down to a lot of gun skill. Apex is basically the DPS player equivalent. Like if you're a DPS player, you can go from Overwatch to Apex and probably be pretty good. And hey, there's a pipeline for that. There was a lot of Overwatch people who went to Apex. Ult usage, yeah, there's actually a lot of crossover there. And I would even say, because it's a free-to-play competitive FPS, I would argue it's even more so, because if Apex has a big event or a new season, I guarantee you that pulls people away from Overwatch. I guarantee it. Like the beginning of the Apex season, for sure, pulls people away from Overwatch. So like when another game or another thing pulls players from your game in a significant amount, I would argue it's a competitor.
Valorant, which I also think is awesome and love and was playing last week. Like it's just, attack shooters are a different thing, right? They're hyper strategic. They're all about clicking heads before other people can click heads. Like it's a super stylish game, like which is rad, but just a very different vibe from ours, like much more. So all these games I think are awesome, but they're not Overwatch. Like Overwatch is its own kind of unique thing, and so it's hard because if I try to compare myself to like a Fortnite, and I'm like, well, how is Overwatch compared to Fortnite? I'm like, well, it's not. I don't know. It's different. It's like comparing apples to Ferraris or whatever. Like I don't know. They're like different things entirely. And so I think we're doing like when I think about how the game is doing, I think the game is doing well, and I'm excited about the game. And so I think about in the space that we occupy.
Sup
Like, I don't
flats.
know, I'm super happy.
Hope
with
you
it.
have a
But
great
I
holiday.
always feel weird about
Thanks so
comparing
much.
us to games that are like they serve different motivations. They're just like different things entirely. Because I'm like I don't know. Like I'm not trying to steal players from Fortnite. I'm not trying to steal players from Valorant. Like I just like
That
all
makes
these things
sense.
exist and people can be excited about them.
Yeah. No, when I say games competitor, I don't mean like they're attempting to steal people from other games, but they will unintentionally do that. Like if like Apex is midway through the season and they have nothing new going on and Overwatch new season drops, people from Apex are going to come play Overwatch. That will happen
Right.
for sure.
And I do think Overwatch, the appeal of Overwatch, especially at launch, was this kind of new era of FPS gaming where it was like so many different things that could bring you into the game. I myself never played an FPS game and came into it gravitating towards like the
Dude, that
Reinhardts
other
and
one
the
is
Winstons, and
crazy.
obviously some people
Yeah.
like the Mercies and stuff. So that's all great to hear. Do you kind of see a world? Obviously, there's so many different metrics for measuring success, right? It can be player counts, it can be monetization for some people, like how much money the game is making or how many views it's getting. Do you see a world where like Overwatch
Waiting
is
for
kind of like
Warhammer?
sitting up top of the Twitch category, or YouTube is like trending videos are all Overwatch the way like Minecraft trends so often in like YouTube, just the general space. Do you see that as
Should
like
put
a
Minecraft.
realistic vision for Overwatch, or is that not the kind of game that you're kind of trying to make?
Sorry, I need to
I
back
mean,
up a little bit because I'm not gonna lie, I missed part of it.
Do you
SVB's
kind of
thing.
the Winstons and I myself era of I do think Overwatch
things exist and people can be excited about
One more
them.
time, sorry.
Get different things out of them.
right, and I do think Overwatch, the appeal of Overwatch, especially at launch, was this kind of new era of FPS gaming where it was like so many different things that could bring you into the game. I myself never played an FPS game and came into it gravitating towards like the Reinhardts and the Winstons and obviously some people like the Mercies and stuff. So that's all great to hear. Do you kind of see a world? Obviously, there's so many different metrics for measuring success, right? It can be player counts, it can be monetization for some people, like how much money the game is making or how many views it's getting. Do you see a world where like Overwatch is kind of like sitting up top of the Twitch category, or YouTube is like trending videos are all Overwatch the way like Minecraft trends so often in like YouTube, just the general space? Do you see that as like a realistic vision for Overwatch, or is that not the kind of game that you're kind of trying to make?
So I guess there's two things there. One, I do see a world
Merry
where that's
Christmas.
possible, and you see it in
Isn't
some
that
of our
too much?
bigger events, like where we get like pretty huge viewer counts on stuff like Twitch, and like I don't view Twitch views as like necessarily the success metric or anything, but like knowing that people are engaged with your game is really important, and so it is definitely one of our metrics that we look at. Like, are people like making a bunch of content about this? Are they interested enough and excited enough? Are people excited enough to watch that stuff? Like, so I do view our future as having a bunch of opportunities to these could like break out and be really big and super fun, and like I think there's a there. But I think to step back a little bit, our goal isn't to hit some sort of like top of the market, like we are the pinnacle thing, like we want to make a great game, and like I think that is a really interesting distinction, because if our goal was have completely dominate the FPS market, like completely change the face of whatever, like the way that we would go about that would be very different than what we're doing now. And like we're so focused on like just make a good live game, like just really focus on like being responsive, being adaptive, changing the meta in ways that people are excited about. Like
This poll is very interesting. 65% other: Fortnite, Apex, Valorant, COD. I wonder how many if people were trolling and chose other because I didn't put Overwatch on there. But if not, then what the f are you guys playing?
just do those things super well, and then you can build on that and grow. It's just a different approach. And so yeah, I love the game. Like I play all the games that we've talked about that are in our competitive space, and like but what we want to do is like make Overwatch the best version of Overwatch it could be. And then we have ideas for building on that I'm really excited about. But like you don't want to go 5 steps ahead of where you are today, right? Like just make sure you're still moving forward, that people are still happy with.
Totally understandable. Speaking of trying to make a great game, then that leads me nicely to
Josie
ask
thinks of the
how you what do you think is your greatest success in the year?
That's actually a really interesting question, kind of from SVB. I didn't really expect there executive producer to be like, yeah, we want to be at the top of YouTube, and like, because they don't have control over that kind of stuff. First off, like, that would be me basically saying like, I'm gonna get the Overwatch Twitch category to 300,000 average viewers. Like, I don't have the power to do that. I ain't got that kind of. I don't got the control. You know, like, yeah, could it technically happen if I just became like the biggest streamer on the planet, and we also farmed drops, and there was also like, you know, we convinced people to make these huge events? Sure, I guess like technically there is a world where that could become possible, but it's not really like a feasible goal. You know, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, and for them it doesn't make much sense either. I will say it is a little disheartening that they don't want to, like, they just want to make a good game, which is fine. At almost, I mean, like, I'm nothing against Jared. I know he doesn't mean it that way, but it's like almost kind of like a PR answer. And I can't blame him for it. I'm not blaming him for him at all. But at the same time, why not? Why don't you want to be the #1 game? You know, like, why don't they want to take over? You know, what's stopping that ideology? I guess, you know, that ambition. Again, though, it's nothing against him. I'm just genuinely a little bit curious in my own, I guess, aspect. Let's continue.
Year gone by, and also, what do you think is the kind of area that you need to improve on the most? Like, so what is the part that you guys did really well, and what's the part that you guys look back and think, okay, this is
yeah, you're right. They said they did want to be more ambitious. People might make fun of them for it. Yeah, you're not wrong. They've definitely said stuff before. They like want to make like something really, really good, and then someone goes back and clips it, goes, well, you want to be really, really good, and then you suck at this. So yeah, you know what, you got a point.
Where we need to really improve on going forwards. Because just to give a framing, actually, I remember last time when we spoke, you said that you kind of really wanted to make sure players engage more and feel like they want to play longer and complete the battle pass and feel rewarded for completing the battle pass. So, for example, is that something you guys feel like you've done?
Yeah, I mean, it's I will be interested to hear your answers to this, by the way, at the end of it, because I want to know what your take is. But for me, I think what I really cared about at the beginning of the year was, you know, we want players to feel rewarded for the time that they spent. We want them to feel good about the game and how it's evolving. We want them to feel like it's alive and you know, responsive. We don't want it to feel like it's stagnant and sort of like, you know, the kind of like what happened at the end of Overwatch 1 when the team was split focus on PvE and PvP is like my goal to avoid at all costs forever, right? It's the like, we need everyone to understand and believe and feel that like this is a game that's like very well supported, that we are making changes kind of in service of them. And so when I think back about what I view as our biggest success, you know, there's like moments that stand out of like La Seraphim was like pretty sick, and we didn't like we were hopeful that people would like it and be excited about it, but like you never know. And so there's things like that where that popped off and we were like,
I wonder how big of a success that was in like Korea and like other Asia regions. It's like K-pop's not massive in the US, you know, like it's big, like, but you know, I just don't know what the impact was over there. I'd be curious of like what it was.
Great, that's really helpful for us to know going forward. So yeah, and like specific hero releases, like you know, Alari stands out as one where it's like, God, that, like, what a great moment where just people were excited, and it, you know, Alari added something interesting to the meta. Like anyway, so there's very specific things. But if I step back,
topped all music charts.
The really boring, like, you know, project lead type answer that I'll give you is like, I feel like we all just kind of got better at what we were doing, like over the course of the year. And that feels really good. Like when you're leading a team, what you want is for those people to constantly be, you know, improving in their craft or, you know, delivering better stuff or whatever.
Right.
And like, I'm not saying we did it perfect, we didn't, but like when I think about where we were at the beginning of the year and I think about where we are now, like just how far we've come and how much we've learned and how much better we are than you know, a year previous us, like that's the biggest success for me. Which
K-pop doesn't come with licensing fees like the US requires, hence the same reason PUBG uses K-pop. I don't know if that's totally true. I still have a YouTube video that is copyright striked by their agency, which was supposed to get fixed, and Overwatch told me they were going to fix it. It's still sitting there. It's like $400 or some shit. It was the stream from World Cup. It was like a 12-hour stream, a lot of like with ads and tips, you know, like there was a lot of stuff on it. That shit's locked up tight because of a DMCA from Hybe. Yeah. So it's supposed to get fixed, but I don't know if that's totally the, you know, US artists charge significantly more. Oh, you meant expenses. Oh, maybe that. Yeah, okay, maybe.
I know it's kind of a boring answer because I'm sure you wanted me to be
no, I get
the greatest thing was the battle pass or whatever. It's like that's not. Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's good to note that like stuff like the Seraphim collab. I think the community feels the same way. Like the Seraphim collab was really great. Before I actually talk about that a little bit more, just the latter half of the question, like what is kind of an area of
What didn't
improvement?
go great? Yeah.
Yeah, like what do you guys feel like you could do better?
Here's what the thing that I believe is true is that I mentioned sort of like this grand reveal. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, but like the grand reveal idea where we're going to make a thing for a long period of time. We're not really going to get any feedback from the community about it. And then we're just going to like drop it on everybody and be like, here you go. Hope you love it. We've got to get better about that. And so, we've talked a lot about the big comp rework that we're doing, and we've been getting more and more eyes on that and getting feedback on it and trying to understand what people do and don't like about it. I think we're going to do more of that before it launches. Like this idea that like before progression's another great example of this. We dropped this big progression feature on the community, and we were like scrambling to get it done, make sure it was good, and then we got a bunch of feedback that we could have sort of avoided had we just engaged with people much earlier. Creators who are under NDA and stuff, or like just by putting previews out into the game early and helping people see stuff before it goes live. We did that with Malga, and it was like a huge success, right? For us, it was big because we were able to get balanced feedback from the BlizzCon thing that we did, where players could play at the show or at home, and like that was huge. And so I think that like proves the point of like we got to stop dropping features and these big things on everybody without any sort of preview or any sort of feedback moments, and get better about building the game along with people and making sure that like we're never going to get it perfect, but if we
I'm just saying, I'm sure there's plenty of creators out there that would spend time sitting down and giving feedback on stuff like this. In their interests, I guess technically my interests as well, but they probably should get paid for that. Just saying, like if they sit down and test a bunch of shit, like for you to make sure it's good or to get feedback, they probably should get paid for that. Just saying. But if that is the route they end up going, we're like, it's no secret that like, when a new season's happening, right? Like creators sometimes get to go, and film stuff and be like, oh, hey, this is coming next season, new hero, and then like battle pass and stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff, like obviously happens. But if he's talking about like more broader stuff, like comp / the hero progression, or like they want to like put new features in and they're worried about like it leaking, or they're not ready for it yet, I'm sure there'd be tons of people that'd be more than willing to help with it and try it out. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents. But it is cool and interesting that they are taking that into account. But I will say though, they probably should be paid for that. Yeah, I'm just saying, like if they're testing something for hours and giving feedback on it, they should probably be paid for it.
We can get it,
because all I'm saying is I have definitely participated, not saying in stuff in the past, like for example, like the new, like I remember like the preview servers, like way back when like Ramatra like came out, like way back when, and I remember seeing creators from other games when they were coming to Overwatch were like, oh, you want us to like test this out and whatever and like try, and they're like, yeah, and it was like, oh, are you guys paying for it? And they're like, no, and then they were like, nah, that I'm good. And it was very interesting. I was like, whoa, wait, is that something we're supposed to have done? But it is cool though. I do like that. I do like Jared's philosophy of like trying to not just drop things out of nowhere. They're trying to like work with the community and like make things good. Whether that's experimental, whether that's like the MAGA stuff, whether it's more privated stuff that they're not like really sure about it yet. I think it's a really good way to go. And I like Jared's philosophy on that.
80%. And then that last 20% is just like the polish that makes it really, really sing. Then great. But I think that's the area where we've struggled the most and that we need to keep focusing on.
Yeah, the way you guys are getting paid. Yeah. So like if you don't know this, okay, it should be fine. I tested like Apex stuff. See, this used to be a big joke in my stream for a long time, was because especially when people would come in and be like, Fuss, you're a paid shill. And I go, really? Well, that's funny. I've gotten paid more by Apex than I ever have by Overwatch, which was true until the John Cena thing. But yeah, like I did like a test event for Apex, like when Ash came out. And because they invited a bunch of streamers from other games and whatnot, because like they needed a bunch of people to test the new map, new hero, whatever. I got invited to it. I had to sit in an hour-long presentation and then play the game for like an hour or two, and I got paid like $500. It was great. It was the easiest $500 I've ever made in my whole life. I was like, holy shit, this is pog. But apparently that's like standard. That doesn't happen in Overwatch land. So yeah, that was why for a long time the joke was I got paid more by Apex than I ever did by Overwatch, because
Yeah, I mean, you call it the grand reveal. I call it the Beyonce approach of drop an album with no promotion. But is there some sort? Is there plans in the work for like ways of getting more active feedback before like things get too far along? Like, is there any ideas? For that?
Yeah. So I love when I get to talk to you and just say stuff that our PR team doesn't know about. I'm sure they love it too. I'm sure that they really enjoy it too. Yeah. So I think I won't say anything specific, but what I will kind of hint to is the way that we handled Nalga is, I think, the way that we should be handling most big pieces of content in the game, right? Where it is a thing where we have an idea, we're getting internal and like external feedback from people about the direction, but it's usually like under NDA. It's like a smaller group of people or whatever. Where with Nalga, then we were able to go really, really wide with it once we were pretty confident in the direction, and then that informed a bunch of changes that we made before we even launched the hero. And so I want us to do a lot more of that. We have plans to do a lot more of that, but it's not just heroes. It's for potentially changes to the core gameplays, or to new systems that we might be releasing, or to things like new modes. And so
he just says the way the core gameplay plays. Jared said that to not Jared. Alex said that to me too.
With the core gameplays, but it's not just heroes.
That's good. That is a very good thing that they're looking at that, because the current gameplay loop of Overwatch is a little miserable at the moment.
For potentially changes to the core gameplays, or to new systems that we might be releasing.
Something's getting cooked.
Or to things like new modes. And so we have plans for things that I won't get super specific.
He did specifically say this is something the PR team doesn't know about, and then said that something's cooking.
Are like giving the community early previews before we launch something, so that we can be confident in the direction.
Awesome. I like the sounds of that personally. Like I think the community anecdotally loved, the experimental card. PTR was, and maybe the dev side didn't feel the same way, but the PTR was really popular as well, I think. So
we're so back part too.
PTRs are fascinating, by the way, just as an aside, like, because it's like PTRs end up being a really small part of your community, but they are really powerful. So I'm not like against PTRs at all. I think it's just us finding what is the best way for us to do that. Is it by hosting a PTR?
The 66 copiumers are out in full force now. Relax, I don't think it's that either. I think 66 is a last resort.
Awesome. So to go back to what you mentioned there, your big kind of touching point was Le Seraphim.
Yeah.
What can we expect? That was huge. I think we kind of started with One Punch Man, and that was great. Like, as someone who loves the anime, I thought it was great. But I know that there's a wider audience who maybe were like, what is this? I don't know. Whereas Le Seraphim has that next level reach. We recently saw Apex collaborate with Final Fantasy VII, which I was very surprised by. That's very cool that they would collaborate by like a whole separate game with made by a whole different developer. So what is on the cards for Overwatch in terms of collaboration? I'm unless the PR team are gonna lose.
No, he ain't gonna say
anything specific. But is there any sort of big picture ideas of like what you aim for with these collaborations going forwards?
Yeah, I would love to be able to just tell you what the ones we have planned are, because we have a bunch planned for next year. I can't though, for boring legal reasons and stuff. But like, I think maybe I mentioned this before, so sorry if this is repeating. But like, the approach we had with collabs is we wanted to line up a bunch of different partners that we as a team were excited about for different reasons, and then see what players actually liked. Right? Like, there was a world where we released One Punch Man and people were like, I don't care about anime collabs, and like, forget it, move on to something else. There was a world where we released the Le Seraphim collab and people were like, K-pop's not really my thing, like, find something else. And so I think we've done a really good job of lining up a set of collaborations for 2024 that are going to hit on a bunch of different things that people may or may not love. There's a couple in particular that like I personally, because I had not watched One Punch before I joined the team, and then when I found out about the collab, I watched it and thought it was great. But like, that wasn't my thing personally. There's a bunch of stuff that we have next year that like personally I am like extremely geeked out about, and like even up to last week we were like working through the details of one that we have coming up, and it was just like so exciting that this thing that I personally love is going to have like a representation inside of our game. So I guess my like takeaway would be, we have a bunch of different collabs. I would love to collaborate with other video games. Like, I think that is so cool when there's like that crossover audience and they get to see something that they love, and it's in this different form that they also are excited about. Like, I think that that's sick.
It's a really interesting answer.
There's other stuff too. It's
interesting in a good way.
It's not just anime and that kind of stuff. We have a bunch of other things planned.
Right. So is that kind of like the goal is to kind of pluck from
Streamer
multiple
skins?
sources
No,
here?
there's actually a 0% chance of streamer skins. Zero. Like, and it's not me being like pessimistic. No, it's actual zero.
Anime.
They've already said like there will never be another person reference in a game.
Music, maybe TV or movies or something, and games are on the card too. So you kind of want to like engage. You know, if one collaboration didn't do it for a person, another one might.
That's been
do it
ruined
the
for
next
us. Don't
person.
forget about that.
Yeah, I don't expect. This is true of the game in general, but I
Streamers just look boring. What do you want? Oh, that's what you think it is? Oh, okay.
don't expect everyone to universally love everything, right?
I wish that's what it was.
So there'll be stuff that we do in terms of collabs that some people will be like scratching their head about, like, I don't like who's that for? I don't really care. But then as long as there is a group of people that it's actually for and they're excited about it, then that's dope. So yeah, our goal is to really like keep trying different things, keep seeing what resonates with the community, and if something doesn't, that's good to know, and we just won't do more of it. But if something does, then we'll find other ways to kind of like double down on that and give people stuff that they can be psyched about.
Awesome. I love to hear it. Okay, so actually another big, I think, major point in the year for Overwatch was the Steam launch. I think certainly was very, people were very excited when it came out, and of course,
interested to hear about this
you guys
one.
are well aware. Aaron kind of joked about it at
Aaron's doing.
BlizzCon that it became this thing where Overwatch became the worst reviewed game in Steam. And I'm glad to hear that you guys had like a good humor about it, but I think this can be one of these situations where actually in the back end it's a lot different than what we perceive as the public, and maybe people see these negative reviews or whatever, but in the back end, was it successful for you guys? Like, did it drive a lot of players to play Overwatch who weren't playing before, or how did it hit?
Yeah. I view it as a success. I mean, I think that there's like the two elements of it, right? It's like the goal with going free to play and the goal with going on platforms like Steam is to make sure that every player who wants to play the game has the chance to play the game, right? Like, and it's really about like meeting players where
Hopefully
they
they
are,
fix the fucked up top 500 leaderboard with Steam though.
Specific places to play. So that was always the goal, and like, we're game developers, we're game players. Like I spend a ton of time on Steam, like a ludicrous amount of time on Steam, and so when I think about if it was a success or not, like we brought a new platform onto the game, we were able to bring a bunch of new players in to the game. We were able to take players who were playing on other platforms, and if they like Steam better, then they were like, oh, actually, this
especially in Asia
anyway.
region.
So, like, we were able to we saw
a lot of people play on Steam
kind of where they were primarily playing from. So like when I step back and I'm like, was it a success? Like the answer for me is a resounding yes. Like it was definitely successful. The launch of it was pretty smooth. Like we had a couple of minor technical issues the first 3 days, and then since then I think it's been mostly smooth sailing. So like I feel really good about it. Like new players came in, great. The other part of it where like players used it to voice their frustrations, and then a bunch of non-players used it to voice their frustrations. I think obviously as a developer feels terrible. Like you never want to disappoint people, right? And so like the team seeing all these negative reviews pouring in and seeing articles about how it's the most negatively reviewed game. That part sucked. Like I'm not gonna lie, that was rough. But then you step back and you're like, okay, so you disregard for the moment these people who are kind of like jumping on other people's legitimate complaints and think about what we're able to do here. And it's like a bunch of people that wouldn't have otherwise played the game are playing the game, and like that's awesome. And like we're giving them this new hobby that they can love and be excited about. And like
I wonder what they were hoping for on like player count numbers, because it's definitely not very high.
We're well past that launch window, and I think everyone now is just sort of like, yeah, Steam players are part of Overwatch. It's great, which to me is a huge.
Yeah, that is awesome. I think that's probably exactly what you would want from a Steam launch. And I think, as they say, hate is not the opposite of love, but apathy, right? Apathy. So the fact that people were out there hating on it, maybe I'm sure it was very difficult, and my heart goes out to developers who have to deal with that. But the fact that people were so motivated that they had to go in and leave reviews and stuff does tell you the cultural impact that Overwatch has had and perhaps still has in some people's minds. So.
SVB might be a
little
bit of coping there, but
like well-meaning frustration and like constructive criticism over apathy, right? Like if people stop caring, that's a problem. And if we stop caring about the critical feedback, that's also a problem. And so
sure,
it was the tough part of those reviews is so many of them were just like dogpiling kind of like nonsense, but a lot of them were like legitimate concerns about the direction the game had taken and things people didn't like about it. And like it's you filter out sort of the noise, and then you get to the signal of like, all right, like look, we still have things to work through here that are like you can't tell players what to think, like you have to listen. So that's what we did.
Well, I mean, again, that leads nicely on the idea of listening to players is kind of the elephant in the room, PVE, right? So This was
Uh-oh.
obviously another reflecting on 2023
Uh-oh.
for Overwatch. This was the thing, right? This was meant to be the thing for
Yep.
Overwatch 2, and obviously, it has been discussed to death potentially. But for a lot of people, it was
Emphasis on that last part
the
to
thing that they
death.
were most excited about. And in many ways, we've kind of gone dark on it since the launch, right? Like we haven't really heard a lot about it from you guys. Yeah. I know you guys said that you're kind of listening to feedback, but it feels, at least from my POV, it feels like you've gone, okay, no, we're kind of putting that on the backseat. Maybe backseat is even too generous. Like we're quite, we're kind of, we haven't even heard anything about it, right? And nothing mentioned on BlizzCon. So I think me and a lot of other people are looking at it and thinking, well, what is the plan here? Like, are we going to go back to like an Overwatch 1 type situation where it's just expect an archive here or there? Or is there still some bigger plan for the PvE?
I mean, yeah, I think I've talked about this a little bit, but just to say it, like, Overwatch 2 is not going to be the everything Overwatch game. Like it just can't be. I think that what we learned from the end of Overwatch 1 and trying to build it, and what the team learned from that time period, was that like they weren't really set up to be able to execute on that vision of like Overwatch 2 can be everything. It can be this like always on, frequently updated content machine that kicks out a bunch of great PvE stuff kind of at this like constant clip, while also then building and supporting a PvP game that's constantly updated. And like that wasn't going to work, and it's not going to work for us. And so, when we changed our approach, it was more about creating moments with PvE and with co-op gameplay in general, where it's like, you get that break from your like intense quick player comp matches, and you get to step back and either enjoy something that's just co-op with friends, or you get to learn more about the world, and you get these like cool hero interactions, and you get to learn more about the story. And that's really where we're leading into PvE going forward. So if you look at our approach in the back half of the year to PvE, we did story missions and invasion, and then we've been trying a bunch of other stuff while we're working. So like hero mastery missions coming out is like, what if people got solo PvE experiences that they could dig into? Like, would they be into that? Like, what if we did stuff like Trials of Sanctuary, where you get to like get some power growth over the course of a match? Like, would people be excited about that? So we have been trying different things with PvE, and that's going to be the theme going forward. Is we're going to keep experimenting. We'll try to find ways to move lore into those experiences, to give people who love the world and the story more of that to be excited about. But
Trials of Sanctuary being something that like they're like, yeah, like I think people like the idea of hey, like powering up, but like that's what the PvE originally was supposed to be, kind of, right? Because like you level up your skill trees and whatnot. Like that's what was supposed to be. But Trials of Sanctuary was because you just fought Giga Health Orissas or Giga Health Roadhog. Like fighting giant Giga Health targets is not that fun. I know there's probably limitations, but fighting 10 enemies that are all just have a ton of health is not that fun. I'd rather fight 40 enemies that don't have much health and feel like you're fighting the world, like almost like Call of Duty zombie style,
We also want to try these other things that are like smaller replayable things, these like breaks from the action where you can have this very different.
Even if Battle of Beasts aren't successful, I'd much rather have 20 shitty events throughout the year than nothing. No, I'm not saying like I'd rather literally nothing at all, because there's some of them that have been hits, right? Like for example, Prop Hunt was awesome, right? But at the same time though, there are people that are sitting there and creating those events and those game modes, right? Like, yeah, you'd rather have content than not have content, but at the same time though, if they're putting a lot of effort into these pieces of content that nobody really ends up playing very much, is that the best allocation of resources? And so I don't know what other options would be on the table. So if there's other options on the table, I'd love to hear those. Best game mode was the April Fool's one. The April Fool's one was great. It was awesome. I don't know. Prop Hunt isn't PvE though? I mean, no, you're not wrong. It's not actual PvE, but
continues to be the approach.
He was also talking about PvE kind of game modes too, and like to that, it kind of like makes me remember like the seasonal game mode that comes out every year.
So is it fair to say then, because earlier on in the podcast we said that when it came to the PvP launch, you guys are learning, and you're kind of now at this point where you're in your groove and you know what you want to do. It wasn't at launch Overwatch 2 wasn't like you weren't like, this is what we're gonna do. You're kind of learning, and okay, you're now like, okay, we're in a groove. Now we can make the vision for the PvP game. Is it fair to say that, you know, when you launched the PvE, you weren't, what you thought you were gonna have wasn't what it ended up being, and now you're trying to learn again? Like, well,
yeah, last year's Halloween event, yes, that's what I would love. Last year's Halloween event, that's the shit that I wish we had. That's the type of experience, and I would trade the seasonal, not that fun Battle of Beasts, you know, kind of goofy game modes for like maybe every other season, or, you know, like maybe twice a year or 3 times. Like, not having that this year for Halloween was such a disappointment. And like, I even got Siegel to come back and play, because I thought it was going to be like from the way it was hyped up, I thought it was going to be a lot like last year's. And I told him, you know, and it was like, hey, you want to run it back? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's run it back. And he joined, and he was like, wow, this is not it. And I was like, dude, I felt so bad. I was like, I didn't mean to debate you, dude. I didn't know.
What do we want to do with the PvE?
Totally, because it was like, think about this set of missions that had been built for a very different experience, right? It was what was shown at BlizzCon 2019 was not what we were going to be able to deliver. And so when we like stepped back and looked at it, it's like, okay, then what is this going to be? So here's this, you know, form that we can put it out in. We'll try this approach to story missions, and we'll see if it works. And it worked in some regards, and it didn't work in other regards. Like it worked in that, like, we were able to give people, you know, this like cinematic, like really exciting and interesting set of missions to play through. But then when you look at it in the context of a live game, it's like, well, you couldn't drop 3 of those a season. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, we don't have a big enough team for that. We don't have enough development time to like build up that set of missions for it. And so, you know, those kinds of experiences I do think are important for Overwatch going forward. But like this idea that, like, you know, actually, you know, we're going to be able to do that every season is like it's not realistic. And so, yeah, when we went into Invasion, it was basically we were taking something that had been built for a different purpose and applying it in this different way as part of the live game, and then seeing what happened. And we learned a bunch from it. And so, you know, I would love for us to do more stuff like that in the future.
Right.
But we also want to mix it up a little bit and see if we can find something that people like absolutely love and want to like constantly keep playing within the scope of what we can do as a team.
Right. And I
don't know if that's going to really happen though in what they currently are doing for PvE. I just don't see it.
You're kind of trying to engage various parts of the audience with your collaborations. And I think with the PvE, while you've said that you don't want Overwatch necessarily to be a catch-all game for everyone, there is a large section of people who do like the PvE a lot. And, you know, I will mention, because I was asked this a lot, that, like, you know, for example, the PvE doesn't progress the battle pass very much anymore. So I think a lot of the PvE players feel a bit neglected. Like, they kind of really had their hopes up, and now they're starved a little bit. So what could you say to maybe like reassure them?
I mean, there's nothing that I, as a developer, I think can say to reassure people, right? Like, I think ultimately we have to deliver stuff that they enjoy. And so what I will say is, when we put out things like event missions, or like, yeah, we did Underworld as part of the PvE release, the response to that was actually really good. The like week over week, we saw people come back and play it when the modifiers changed. Like, that was an area where we learned on something that was much more realistic to build, and actually like provided, I think, some pretty good replay value there for people that then also, you know, progress the pass. And so that was one that we learned from. What I want is for people who come in to play the game to get that value out of the time that they spend. And so where we have an area where it's like, hey, I just spent 3 hours playing this thing and I basically got no past progress for it, that's something that we do need to improve and like fix going forward. So I want those people to feel confident that we're not going to make them feel like their time is wasted, for sure, because I know that that's been a frustration.
Awesome.
But we have to try some different stuff there and just see, like, you know, learn from the stuff that worked and take from the stuff that didn't work, and you know, avoid some of those things again.
Right. That's totally cool. Glad to hear you guys are kind of noting these problems. And speaking of like a sort of core part of the community that kind of maybe hasn't had too much discussion recently, is like the workshop side of things. Like, I don't know if this is a question you can really answer.
Thanks, appreciate it.
But You mentioned Lego Fortnite earlier, and you know, I think the whole game industry is looking at these kind of things as like, wow, this is incredible what people are doing.
Yeah.
And the Overwatch Workshop was kind of like the starter wheels of that kind of a project. But is there any idea of something bigger, like a full-on map editor or like a creative mode that
I don't
really
see it
lets
happening.
people dive
They said in the
deeper
past it
with
would
the
take over a
assets that are
year
in Overwatch to make new things for themselves?
of just like hard focus.
Not to that extent. Like Lego Fortnite is like absolutely incredible in terms of like what it is and the scope that it has. Like it is a big experience. So for us, I think what we would want to focus on with Workshop going forward is, you know, we were able to do a really cool event that was with the mode created by a creator earlier this year in the
I just
Digital
hope he's
mode
saying, yeah.
for season 5, and like building on the tool set that we have so that we can enable people to make more stuff like that like is bigger and more interesting and like potentially is like integrated as a direct part of our events or like our live game is sort of the thing that I would want to like get better at first. Overwatch, the workshop in Overwatch has always been like, you know, really good for people who are like hyper invested in getting into the details, but it's not particularly friendly to people who you know haven't used that kind of stuff before. And also, you know, it has some gaps, there's bugs in it and things like that. And so when I think about where I'd want us to go with that, it's not to the level of like, you know, have a full map editor where you can do scenarios and scripting and all that kind of stuff like some other games have done. For me, it's like the baby step there first is just make it more stable, robust, like make it something that we can like consistently use and even use to build big events for the game. If
Right.
it goes anywhere from there, it'll be based purely on like demand or need, right? Because say we have 15 people spend a year just making Workshop like the greatest thing ever, and then, you know, 2% of the community engages with it. I'm like, that probably wasn't the right way to spend that time. And so, yeah.
He's right. He's right. But it's hard to judge it that way because, like, don't get me wrong, like, Workshop's awesome, but it's not awesome as, like, other games as Workshop. Like, I hate to be that comparison guy, I guess, but SVB bringing up Lego Fortnite is a good example of, like, you can do tons of shit in Lego Fortnite. Overwatch Workshop is mostly, like, tweaking numbers and like you go faster or, you know, you can, you know, give wacky abilities or change abilities to other characters, or you randomly, like when you, like for example, mystery ultimates, when you hit the ult button you swap to another character and ult as them, like, you know, like that kind of, it's all really cool, but it's not on the same level, you know. And I'm not a designer, so I can't really speak in too much detail, but I think Workshop's probably criminally underappreciated by the Overwatch community. Like, people don't play it as much as they probably should. But I also don't think Overwatch makes it super intuitive for people to play it. And I think a good example was the first times, like, you know, putting one of the better modes in the arcade. Like, that was pretty good. And I think that they could do more things like that. And maybe even like prop hunts. Like, why can't we build prop hunt maps right now in the Workshop editor? You know, I'm sure like if Cactus Puppies was here, he could give me the actual answer. But like, why can't Workshop editors do that? And there's probably an exact reason, and it's probably the Workshop doesn't have the tools for it. So when you sit there and you say, well, like, you know, probably people aren't going to use it. Well, that's probably actually true. He's right. But at the same time, though, it's not nearly what the potential of it could be. You know, so it's hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to say of like, should they put resources in it because people might not even use it, but you can't even judge it that hard because it doesn't have its potential to actually use a lot of those things, you know?
Yeah, well, it'll be a little bit more iterative. It'll be a little bit, you know, smaller in scope. And then if there's a bunch of demand, we'll build on it from there.
All right, so what I'm hearing is workshoppers, you need to start getting the community rallied. You need to start signing some petitions or something, get everyone to play all your workshop modes and create cool stuff.
And to be fair, like I want to bring more of that stuff into the game in like our events, and like I want to be able to feature creators who like really understand and make rad stuff in workshop.
Because Overwatch is so optimized, maps with geometry need to be pre-baked, else Switch can't run it. It doesn't Switch. Isn't Switch only able to barely run it anyways? I've definitely seen clips of little blue dots running around in Switch.
to make them kind of front and center more next year than we did this year. So yeah.
Awesome. And yeah, and shout out to Cactus Puppy, by the way, who made the Demon Lord. You know, big
Yes.
and the whole workshop community. You know, I've kind of engaged with them a little bit, not as much as I would have liked, but they're really dedicated and they're really, you know, passionate about Overwatch. So it's awesome to see.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. Somebody who knows better than I do, but I'm actually like pretty sure Fortnite creators, like there's an actual side of Fortnite that is like Workshop Fortnite, and they're like actual creators with codes and they get paid for it. And I only say this because I'm pretty sure Tim had like a only up map made with a code with him, and then he promoted the out of it. And I'm pretty sure they got paid off of that. Like him and whoever created it. They're paid by playtime. That's wild. Think about that, right? Like, you want to talk about like people getting me the workshop to actually like have more modes made and like more stuff invested in it. Isn't that a great way for like people that actually create maps and create game modes getting paid for it? Isn't that a great incentive? And Epic is having a problem with that because it's what people are playing the most these days, to a point it's affecting their finances. Is it? I mean, Fortnite seems like it wants to go down the route where I'm talking reduce revenue. How is it reducing the revenue? Because it's people spending more time in Fortnite. That doesn't sound, unless you have like a source of that, I'm gonna call it bullshit. Not saying it causes problems with people playing tons of that, but like I don't know why would that affect their bottom line? That's people playing the game more often. Yeah, maybe I'm not calling you a liar. I'm just saying like I think I need more than that, you know? That just seems like a great way to get people incentivized to make more stuff. And yeah, even there's a good point to be made. Yeah, maybe they lose some money off of it, but wouldn't they lose more money? It was talked about in Tim's Epic letter where they announced their firings. I'd have to obviously see the whole thing to really know, but because I didn't see that, I didn't read it. At that point, though, wouldn't you say that like if people are playing your game more, like because it has more content, that even though like you're getting less revenue, it's probably contributing to why you're still holding the revenue you are? Like it's almost like you're pointing at the wrong thing. Yeah, you'll probably get tied up by the bot, but if any mods are here can probably can just grab it for me and I'll look at it after.
So my pretty much second last question, then the final one will just be, you know, a sort of summary for 2024 as it were, but
yeah, you're not in trouble
what
or anything,
is the
just
vision outside of Overwatch, like outside of the game? What is the vision for like the franchise of Overwatch? Like, is there anything that you're kind of?
I'll take a look at it
eye
after.
on?
I want to get to Sunlock for
what
too
we
long.
need to think about, you know, people obviously. I won't even mention the Netflix show. I won't go say the full name, utter it. But you know, there's other things that people can do. You know, there's like spin-offs and whatnot. So, is there any ideas there?
I think my boss is probably watching. So, in the interest of not getting fired, what I will say is,
wait, who's Jared's boss?
But it's true.
Aaron?
So what I will say about it is, we love Overwatch, not just the game Overwatch 2, but like Overwatch as a franchise. Overwatch, the possibility space for what it could be, right? Like seeing the response to the like short anime episodes that we did earlier in the year was really great, and like. It's you know, you never want people to be disappointed, but what you want is for people to be like, God, why can't there just be more of that? Like, why can't I get more and more? Why couldn't this be a full series of like 30-minute shows or whatever? Like that's the kind of response that we want to see, that helps us understand that there is a demand for that stuff out there, and it's not just us being excited about these ideas of like, hey, what if we did this, or what if we tried that? So what I can say is we have a bunch of really great ideas. There's a bunch of stuff that we want to do and are looking into doing, and it's a question of like, you know, which of those things become real and when do they see the light of day. But like, I think it's really clear that, you know, not only do we want to make more stuff in the world of Overwatch, but the community wants more stuff in the world of Overwatch, and like it would be my honor to be able to deliver a bunch of those things to them. So stay tuned, and as we can actually talk about stuff, we will. But there's a lot of amazing things we could do with a franchise this good.
I agree. There's like so much potential. I think that's how everyone who loves Overwatch feels. It's just like amazing characters, amazing, vibrant world that people really enjoy participating in. So I think anything could be done and everything could be done. Actually, before I ask my just 2024 really quick answer console, because I know my console homies, they're always feeling like, you know, they're a bit neglected. Any word on console, especially like zimming and issues like that? Like any note to the console community?
Yeah, console is huge in Overwatch, and actually it's grown in Overwatch 2 to be a massive part of the player base, right? So like,
No surprise
one of
there.
the things that's interesting about development teams that have been together for a long time is, you know, they build their habits, and like Overwatch started as very much a PC thing, right? And then
Yep.
grew over time to be more and more console focused. And so over the past year, one of the things we started to do, and there hasn't been a ton of this that is manifested in the game yet. I mean, like dead zone settings and stuff have come out, but like we haven't done as much for console players, or we haven't released as much for console players as we want to and are working on. So I've talked about
Like what,
you know,
though?
on Twitter or whatever, like the fact that we are working on Zim, we have plans there. The thing where you're
Yeah.
talking about like anti-cheat stuff is like you really can't say a ton about it publicly, otherwise the people who are developing those things will then know what you're doing, and then they will be ready to like react. So like our
Yeah,
focus
that's
is,
true.
you know, we know where the problems are.
Actually, I saw something that was like very interesting, and I don't know if I've watched. Did we watch it on stream? Something about it, but I was gonna watch on stream. But basically, people get really mad that cheaters don't get banned fast enough, and like the reason why is like they do it in like 6 month cycles. They do ban waves in 6 month cycles, and because they do that, it's harder for the cheat developers to pick up where they up. So like if they up 3 months ago, but they've made 50 updates since then, they don't know what update is what triggered it, right? But if you do it right away, then they can go, oh, this is what we just changed this really quick, this update. That's how they found us, and then they can like backtrack and fix it really quickly. There's a clip from Pirate Software about it. There was a video, but I think that's the clip I saw recently. I don't know if I watched the video. I have a video somewhere that I was gonna watch one day, then I never did. But then yeah, I think I saw the TikTok of him talking about it recently. You're right. That's what it was. But yeah, that one's actually really interesting.
There's two big categories. One is, are people
Blue
using
Hawk thinks
devices
the
like
T1.
Zim,
I appreciate it.
for console? And
Pirate Software is amazing. Yeah, he's. I only heard about him very recently, but like every time I see a clip of that dude, I'm like mind blown.
Knowing that it is a really tricky challenge. Tricky
The guy's
than even I
smart.
knew before I started looking into it. And how do we make the game like a great experience on console? There's a couple of things that I think are like really focus worthy for us. One is we still occasionally release bugs that are like pretty game breaking. Like there's a PS5 menu bug that went out 2 weeks ago. I think it was. Time means nothing to me anymore. But like recently, that was really bad, and we should have caught. We didn't catch. We introduced it kind of unknowingly, and then the team responded really quickly and fixed it. But like as developers, we have to be better about like validating our own stuff, you know, and making sure that when we're implementing something, we're thinking more broadly about.
Didn't we just hear a
all the things that could be
walkie-talkie?
impacted by it, so that we are consistently delivering a good experience. The other is usability on console. Like the game wasn't initially created to be like used on a controller, right? So you still see weird little vestiges of that in the game that are like confusing or baffling, or why do I have to hit this button 15 times to get to the menu thing that I want? Like there's just a bunch of little stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
end
so,
of screen.
like we've just got to get better.
The
about
end
this thing.
screen
So
is bad.
There's, you know, making sure that we're delivering higher quality on console consistently, not introducing bugs that are unique to console that like
That's bad for us on
when something was
PC.
implemented we didn't think about. And also the sort of like just making usability as good as it can possibly be, so that console players feel like it's like streamlined. Like getting into a game with friends on console is way harder than it should be. It is not easy today, right? And that's like a little basic thing that we just need to be better about. So the team already has a bunch of ideas for this that you know they're either working on or will be working on in the future, so that those players, you know, understand that we care about them as much as we really do.
That's really awesome to hear. I think the console community, they just genuinely feel a bit like, well, we're second tier, you know, they don't really care. So it's really awesome to hear that there's all these issues that you've addressed, you're thinking about them, you're working on them. And I know you personally as well, Jared, I know you make a point to go and play on like different consoles, so you get the experience of like what it's like. So that's something that hopefully gives you a bit of comfort, console gamers, that, you know, especially Jared and many members of the team, I'm sure, are actually like actively looking for these problems. So
yeah, we have a bunch of people who are like primary console players. I actually primarily play on PC, but I try to every week at least play, you know, a bit on my PlayStation and my Xbox, just to make sure I like understand the experience there.
awesome.
I'm not the only one.
That's really, really cool to hear. Okay, final question then. I know I've taken the allotted time, but final question is just basically
No Switch.
what
Switch
can
not
we
mentioned.
expect for 2024? Like, is there anything you can tell us, and or maybe just big picture ideas of like, okay, well, 2024 we're gonna ramp it up. You know, I imagine you can't talk about like Microsoft, obviously, but you know, what is the vision for 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're going to release more at the beginning of the year, but like just to give you something here, like
Makes
2024, like you know, development takes longer than you would think. I think often the
Yep.
community is like, we'll release something and they'll be like,
When I
this is in
when I
response
told
to
people about the
something that happened
skins
a week
thing,
ago.
they go,
And I'm
"Nah,
like,
it's not real."
it's not. This has been in development for like 6 months or more. Lead times are long, and so a lot of what's coming out next year is the
Oh,
stuff
what was it? There was something that came out. Overwatch did something at the same time it got some heat a while back. And everyone's like, oh, they just dropped this because they got heat. And it was like, no, it was planned for that the entire time. What was it? It was over the summer.
that we've been excited to change or add or fix from this year. And so, you know, going into season 9, I think you'll see kind of the beginning of that. Where
Was it the Pride stuff? It was Pride? What was the thing people got mad at them over? Was it PVE canceled and Pride back to back? And they're like, oh, they dropped Pride because the PVE? Was that what it was? God, that shit was so dumb.
you know, it's our major comp rework, and you know, like I
I
believe
think I remember I was still heated about the PVE thing, and I was like, guys, shut the f up. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read.
it's a significantly better experience than what we have today. I also know that we're going to learn a bunch of stuff that we have to adapt to from that once we release it. So you know, you can look forward to a bunch of big reworked systems like competitive and others. You can look forward to you know, a bunch more interesting collaborations if that's the thing that you're excited about, that like go significantly broader than what we've done to date, which is really cool. And then we have a bunch of really interesting gameplay stuff lined up. Like you know, we could spend a ton of time on like event modes and temporary stuff that people play for 2 weeks, but like ultimately we have to find a good balance between those things which add variety and are really exciting in the moment, and balance those against like constantly making the core game better and different. And I think that that's like so critical for a game like ours. And so another thing you can expect to see next year is a lot more experimentation with the core game itself. And actually we'll be talking about that stuff pretty soon, because there's a lot that we want to do, and we've seen big improvements from things like group respawn and stuff like that. The lever penalties have been another one of those. So we have a bunch of cool ideas for like just ways that we can mix up the core game that'll make it significantly better. So like next year, if you look back at the end of next year, you know, when we're doing this again in 12 months, and we talk about the difference between 2024 and 2023, you know, I hope it is the like 2023 was that beginning of the journey, and 2024 was like we were just full speed ahead, just sprinting as part of that race, and it should feel really, really great.
Awesome. I mean, I personally, yeah, I'm very encouraged by a lot of the things you said, specifically about how it feels like the team have kind of worked into their groove, and you seem more sure about what you want and what you want to do. I can tell
Been
that
here
just from
for
talking
longer
to you
than a
as well.
year.
As
Always love your content, bro.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate
Thanks
the 12
for
months.
being an inspiration in many ways. Love you, King.
especially
Thank
you
you,
know,
dude.
comparing our conversations last time, as I felt a lot more tentative last time. You know, you guys were obviously launching
It
a
was.
game and unsure of things, but now you seem to have learned lessons, and you've kind of. I think one thing that we often forget is the community, that so much of the team is new, right? Like or hasn't been working on Overwatch for that long. So you're learning lessons, we're learning lessons, and hopefully they're all kind of applied to make a better game, or you guys like to say at the end of your calls, make a great game.
Make a great game. Yeah, I think we'll get there. You know what I mean? Like I really believe that the mixture of sort of like Overwatch development veterans, the new blood, people like me who've come in and been there for a relatively short period of time, I think we have a really good back and forth. And then when we add in all the community feedback that we get, I think we get a really well-rounded picture. We have a super solid core audience now that is like playing the game every single day. And so I feel like we're like where we need to be to like really then catapult forward. So yeah, I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jared. I really appreciate you giving me this in-depth focus on all the things that are going on behind the scenes, and I appreciate your candor and speaking in things that, you know, I think a lot of other game developers might shy away from. So I always appreciate you kind of just leveling with me and kind of being honest and upfront.
Okay.
And I'm hopeful that the community will appreciate that as well. So thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to say before I let you get going?
Oh,
I wish I would have thought I'd shout out to Team 4 for being incredible. I'm sure some of the folks on the team are watching right now, but like, just to say, it's been a wild year, and I hope that you all get some rest over the holiday and get to take it easy and come back refreshed. And then also just
Small note on that. Last year, they dropped Ramatra, and then a week or two later, they dropped the anti-Doomfist patch / buffed Ramatra, and then peaced out and they were gone. This year, there were people still working on Overwatch all the way through Friday, which was 2 days ago, the 22nd. So they stayed really late this year working on the game, trying to fix shit and trying to make sure everything was good. And you got to give them credit for it. They really deserved it. They deserved the time off because, like, normally they take like a month and a half off. They take like most of December and the first like week and a half of January. And this year, they got half of that.
shout out to the community, like to everyone who's creating content, like you, to everyone who's playing.
Like when this came out, they were still working.
Any content or see my ridiculous tweets or whatever, like I just thank you to everybody who works on, who plays the game, who's part of this community, because it really is, it's special and like totally unique in my experience in games. So thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, shout out Team 4 and shout out to you guys in the community. Thank you, Jared, again for your time. I really appreciate having you here. And yeah, hopefully we'll touch base again, maybe sooner than 2024, but 2024, like the end of 2024, we'll see and reflect, and we'll compare our yearly chats of how Overwatch is coming along. We'll both be older and, well, hopefully more distinguished.
You can just check the gray in my beard compared to last year to see, kind of how it's been going for me.
How it's aging you. Kind of like when Obama was the president. He just like aged really fast. So we'll see if Jared, the toll takes on you. But thank you, Jared.
There's no way I'll be as distinguished as that. But yes, thank you very much. And thank you for having me.
I know you've got places to go. So thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.
That's funny. All right, chat, give me 1 second. Take a second, get up, stretch. That was pretty damn good, though. That was pretty damn good.